Hi and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Dan.
Sean.
Lee.
You're not Chris.
I'm not, no.
Chris is off on a secret mission. Or he was last seen at Bletchley Park, so we don't know what he's transcoding.
He's an enigma. That would have worked if I got the words right. He's an enigma.
Hopefully he's transcribing what Dan's going to say for the rest of the podcast.
So you're talking in code again tonight then?
Pretty much.
All right, same as always. What a bloody weekend.
It was good.
Crazy
Good race.
Anyone
Well, it wasn't a good race.
It was an interesting race.
Incident-filled race.
Yeah.
It was my favourite race of the year, but not for the racing.
I think I've said that last three races, though. We've hit a good run.
Anyone would think, like we said last week, anyone would think that we might have thrown the toys out with the baby when it came to France.
Well, I think we should just throw France out.
The country?
Just the race.
Okay. Yeah.
Just the Grand Prix, not the race of French people.
Just because they make some delicious food.
But yeah, ever since the French Snooze Fest, we've had three sort of action-packed, interesting, fun to watch.
We have been rewarded for sitting through it, I think.
Yeah,
We earned it.
yeah. I just hope this carries on.
The cars have been able to follow each other as well. I think we
Yeah.
can safely say that whatever little tweaks they could do to the cars have worked, and that can only show that it's going the right way for the new rules.
Well, I mean, the cars can get that close to each other that it's now not going to be our Haas going to bump into each other. It's when Haas going to bump into each other.
This is something I thought the other day when I was watching quali. Every qualifying session now, it seems to be that somebody's trying to get a tow from someone. So it just shows how little they disturb following people. Because it's always been like cars trying to back each other up to get space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now if you're at the back of the tail, you're going, oh, well, that's my qualified. Oh, sorry, if you're at the front, that's your qualified nail because you've got no one to get a tow off.
I've noticed this during FP3, where the dirty air effects are a lot further behind the cars, because there was one lap that Lewis was doing. He was coming into turn 16, and Charles Leclerc had just got onto the start-finish straight, and he was too far behind to get the tow, but hit the dirty air and ended up running wide and completely blowing the lap because of it. And I think now we're getting proper sort of aero drafting effects. Which it's something that we've wanted for quite a while.
Yeah. I think what it shows as well, more so with Mercedes, that again they've got a car where they seem to be disturbed easier, than the other cars.
Well, we've been saying it for a while that the Mercedes struggles to follow.
Get past. I think a certain Finnish driver proved that this weekend.
Well, the original one was proved by a certain kind of Finnish driver. Remember when Lewis said that Rosberg was going too slow to be overtaken? And I think we're kind of seeing the effects of that more now.
Yep.
But yeah, it was. I mean, God, did anyone predict what could have gone on with that?
Judging by our predictions, no.
Well, the predictions are quality.
Oh yeah. Well, I bet basically on every race at some point. A $5 here or a $5 there. I didn't put any bets on this weekend because I just knew it was going to be a lottery.
Damn.
I had
you had a
3
near
on.
miss.
Now,
so close, Dan. So close.
If Verstappen got disqualified,
Well,
I would have been in the money.
Or Lewis got his second penalty.
Or Lewis got his second penalty.
Yeah.
That would have been all right, but Verstappen being disqualified would have brought all of them in. I had Vettel to win at 20-1. I had George Russell to score a point at 80-1. And I had both Williams to score a point at 2,000-1.
That, considering Vettel's form and the fact he was starting from last,
20 doesn't seem that crazy, does it?
No.
I had 20p on 66-1 for Sainz to get a podium. I thought that was quite generous.
I don't like betting less than a $5, not because I've got loads of money to bet, but I always worry that
It'll come in and you've undercooked it.
I've underdone it.
I just never bet.
25p at 2,000-1. You'd have thought to yourself, man, I could have stretched to £1.
Yeah, but I knew it was really unlikely.
Yeah.
I just figured I put this on before FP1, so I knew that Williams had the aero upgrades, but not how good they'd be.
Yeah.
And if they were any good, the odds would come tumbling down. So I reckoned it was probably more like 500 to 1 against.
Yeah.
So not worth losing any significant money.
£1.
You can buy a lot for £1.
You can't, not now. You can't even buy anything in the pound shop in the Isle of Man. With that middle class, they put £20 island tax on it.
20p island
20
tax.
No, £21 shop it is now.
I am losing my badge as the most Yorkshire person on this podcast, aren't I? I'm going to have to do more to get it back. So, what did we see? Haas bumping into each other again. Apparently this time it was Grosjean's fault, according to Magnussen.
No, they both blamed each other, though, didn't they?
Yeah, and Gunther Steiner is losing his shit.
I've got questions about the Haas's bumping into each other, though.
Okay.
Because I thought Magnussen, when he let Grosjean through, he did a really good job of letting Grosjean through and keeping Kimi where he was.
Yeah.
Why did he let Grosjean through just to have 2 laps down the road dive bomb him? Because he was a mile behind. And it's another one of those situations where he stuck his car where Grosjean was going to put his, and then it's 6-1, half a dozen of the other, because Grosjean then turns in and there's his teammates there all of a sudden, and they bump wheels. But sack them both.
Well, rumour has it that Pascal Wehrlein is first in
I
line
saw
for the
that.
seat. Ted Kravitz was saying this on the Notebook.
Isn't that interesting
race.
that the talks of Ocon have disappeared, though?
Ocon's still owned by Mercedes, though, isn't he? So he
Yeah,
wouldn't turn
but-
up at Haas.
But the Mercedes already turned around and said if he could get a Formula One drive, that they would. Let him
Yeah, I
out.
wonder if
but
there may
there might be
be
a seat in the top team
Yeah,
after this
they
weekend.
might be
Because
reconsidering.
Toto said on Thursday, solid performances in Germany and Hungary will be what determines whether Bottas will get a seat for next season. Now, the only thing solid about Bottas's performance was the barrier that he hit.
Well, even before the crash, he was. Well, should we go through the teams like we normally
Yeah,
do?
rather
Because
than
we're
just
kind
jumping
of
about.
messing ourselves up, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we are a bit. Start at the back, and it's Renault this week.
It was like a Mercedes pit stop then.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about with Mercedes, and we won't be saving that till the end. Yeah, Renault double DNF. Technically, the first double DNF for about 6 years old, because the Bahrain one didn't count because they were both classified. But second one this season where they haven't crossed the line.
DNF and not classified is not the same thing.
They did not cross
They
the
did not
line.
finish.
How are the Renault Works teams the one that are having all the bad luck with the engines? I know
It was an
Lando.
exhaust, not an engine.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was like a proper engine blowout.
No, it was some
That-
kind of
It looked
exhaust.
like a proper
It
engine
looked
blowout.
like a 1990s engine
Yeah, yeah,
blowout.
I think the
I
weather
thought Stewart-
kind of makes it look worse than it does when it's something like that. Don't it? When
Probably,
you have
yeah.
the spray and all the cold in there as well. But it was an exhaust failure.
But well, he can't buy any luck, can he?
Which one?
Well,
Danny Rick had bad luck. Hulkenberg,
yeah.
Had
driver
Hulkenberg.
error.
Guido van der Gaard's fault for Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
That was a funny tweet.
He tweeted, don't curse it, you might get a podium. That didn't last well.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Hulk was actually looking really strong, even before the safety car and the shenanigans.
Had the legs on Ricardo all weekend.
Yeah, and he was still running in somewhere between 5th and 7th on actual genuine pace.
Yeah.
I think now Renault have got I mean, I know they've had Hulkenberg for a while, but now they've got Daniel Ricciardo there as well. It really does hammer home how behind it Renault are.
Yeah.
They're doing a really bad job when you consider.
Second best Renault powered team, though.
Yeah, but they're doing a really bad job considering the resources they've got.
Yeah, although they are a truck down.
They are a truck down. Was the driver all right?
Yeah.
Everyone was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no serious injuries. He was taken to hospital for further checks, but they didn't say what was in the truck. But yeah, Renault.
Hopefully it was light and it was the trophy cabinet.
But yeah, Renault just, I don't know. When the car works, it seems to work all right. It's just that it just doesn't work all right for a full race.
How long till we blame Cyril Beatable? I'm not accepting that as an answer, Cyril.
I don't know if I knew.
I think we look at next year.
Yeah.
Don't know if anyone noticed.
They've the new Ferrari.
Yeah, don't know if anyone noticed when Sky were interviewing Cyril Abiteboul after the race. Somebody held the mic for him. They didn't give him the microphone so he could stick it down his throat. I don't know. Is it his fault?
I just realised because of the lack of performance, he's not getting paid. So he's making money on the side by camming, and that's why he keeps ramming things down his throats.
I was expecting that to go in a completely other direction. He's not getting paid, so he's having to eat microphones to survive.
No.
You've not met Lee before, have you?
I keep giving him the benefit of the doubt, which is what people keep doing to Cyril Abiteboul.
We're still on the first team, and
Yeah.
this is where we're going.
We know where we're headed.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, that is it's one weekend to forget, and oof,
Yeah, shame.
one of many. Right.
Just quickly before we leave them, anyone else think Ricciardo must be, if there's a performance clause in his contract, has to be looking at other options where else he can go? Because that team's gone backwards. It's not like they're slowly moving forwards. They've not just dropped backwards, they've gone back to behind where they were last year.
But what's his market value though? Because he's not going to have gone up, is he? After this year, if he goes somewhere else, he would probably be taking a pay cut. He wouldn't necessarily be a number one driver.
It would depend what he's. I mean, if he gets his full, what is it, 20 million a year he's on?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean that just doing that 1 year might lighten the what he thinks he needs from a contract.
It could do.
That's the other thing to remember is that you get big contracts, but it's successful drivers that make millions and millions and millions of pounds and dollars. So I'd prefer to be in a car that's going somewhere than where he is.
He did say that when he was doing his contract negotiations last year, and then he signed for Renault.
Well, they were promising the moon on a stick.
You've got to think about what options he's got open. He probably hasn't got Ferrari because they've got Charles Leclerc. He probably hasn't got Mercedes because they've got Hamilton and apparently have their eye on Verstappen.
Yeah.
So, back to Red Bull.
If that bridge hasn't burned, I don't.
So from where he is, I think the only chances of world title success could be McLaren.
Yeah.
Or Renault staying put.
But
McLaren
McLaren are going to be
changing.
McLaren are going to be sewn up. I think we're going to see Lando and Carlos.
Have already, haven't they?
I think we're going to see them for the next 5 years.
5 years is a long time in Formula One, but I definitely, unless one of them drops off completely in form,
or gets offered something somewhere else.
yeah,
I think.
Or they start running together on the track.
yeah, or one of them clicks, and let's just say, so people don't say I'm a fanboy. Let's just say Carlos just starts wiping the floor with Lando on a consistent basis.
Why are you crossing your fingers when you say that?
I do actually have my legs crossed. Then they might think about getting rid of one of the drivers, but I think if they both keep going where they are, any team. This is where I think teams are going to have to get the ducks in order this year. Because whatever we start the grid with in 2020, teams are going to want to keep their teams through 2021.
Yeah.
Because with big rule shake-ups, you don't need new drivers as well. You want drivers that have been embedded in the team, that know the team they're working with.
Or if you're getting new drivers, you want their engineer and pretty much their side of the pit crew from their old team.
Yeah.
Yeah, do a whole Ferrari Benetton thing.
Yeah.
Just take the bloody lot. I mean, we're gonna be talking a lot about the silly season over the next few weeks.
During the silly season.
During the silly season and the summer break. What I reckon we should do, I've already suggested this to Chris and Sean, I mentioned it to you earlier, but what I think all 5 of us should do is write down what we think the grid's going to look like next year.
I think we did this years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, but that's when nobody listened to us.
Yeah,
and nobody read the website.
no. We did it. We did it.
But yeah, let's
first
all
idea.
do not a fantasy grid, not who you want to see driving for,
Genuinely who you think,
but
it
genuinely
might be.
who you think is going to be where, and let's see how accurate we can be.
Yeah.
Given our predictions, generally I'm going to go with minimal
We all did as well as each other on
We
this
did.
week's race. Spoiler alert. Shall we move on?
We could set up a separate email as well. Set up a separate email so we don't check it, and so listeners can send their predictions in, and we can open them all at the same time.
Like a weird
Christmas.
secret Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah, secret grid. I'll get that set up during the week, and we'll announce that on next week's pod.
Yep.
Right.
I think we just announced it, but carry on.
Well, no. Formally announce
Formally
the email
announce it on next week's
address.
pod.
I know.
Just
Just tickling balls.
Just got to do it on the pod to do it properly. Well, I wondered why you were sat like that. Alfa Romeo finished in the points
Mm-hmm.
and then didn't.
Mm.
The 30-second penalties would actually have been stop-and-go penalties if they'd have had chance to apply it during the race. But the stewards were a little bit behind on everything because there was that much going on.
So the penalties were for the clutch not responding to its inputs quickly enough.
I thought it was driver coaching during the parade laps.
You
No.
have a certain amount of time to release the clutch paddle. There's like an assistive mode in the clutch panel and paddle, and you have to release it within 70 milliseconds. And they were 200 and 300, respectively.
Oh, right,
So-
okay.
So basically, the car was doing traction control.
Yeah.
And how the hell did the FIA work this out, for one thing?
Scrutineering, I think. I think that's why it came out after the race, because I think it's once they downloaded the data.
Right.
Right, okay.
Because
So it was on the scrutineering document, wasn't
we
it?
both read the scrutineering document
Which
yesterday.
is a fascinating read if
And
ever you feel like venturing that way.
If ever you can't sleep, read the scrutineering notes.
It's very precise.
I will stick with ASMR and people scratching on corkboards.
I would rather listen to scratching on a flaming blackboard than read that again.
No one ever does that in ASMR videos. Weird.
So yeah, what is it? Article 27.1 says the driver must drive the car unaided, which means no coaching and no traction control or ABS.
Right, that's where I've got
So
confused.
it all falls under the same sporting regulation. So that's why they said it was a driver aid, the driver not driving the car themselves.
Yeah, the car was applying the clutch more gently than the driver was.
Right.
I think they argued that it was because of the weather conditions, but no one else had that problem. So
They said, "Yep, sorry, we kind of just shoved the numbers in at the last minute because it was raining. We didn't quite know what we were doing." Yep, fair cop gov.
But-
And now they're appealing.
But they are appealing because Fred Vasseur says they've got evidence to prove that they didn't do it. even though,
even though the FIA has taken evidence and data from their car that shows they did it.
yeah, but apparently the bloody driver's glove was the wrong size.
Okay.
And, you know, it was another Raikkonen's DNA that was on the wheel.
Okay.
On the whole, though, Kimi was bloody impressive this weekend.
He had a great race.
Best of the rest in qualifying in
Yeah.
Q2 and Q3. Great start, up to third at one point.
Got Vettel and then pulled away from him in the Ferrari.
Yeah,
That must have been pretty satisfying for him.
yeah, he doesn't have to move over anymore.
Well, you would think he did, really, wouldn't you, given the teams? But I was quite surprised by that, especially when he shut the door on. I thought, fucking hell, not in the same colour car anymore, are they? But,
And we're saying Kimi was impressive. Giovinazzi was only one place behind.
yeah, it was a good race for Giovinazzi.
Yeah, he's turning into the. I've said this before, but I think he's turning into the new Carlos Sainz and just doing the getting on with it now.
No,
He's had a bit of a shaky start this season.
Carlos
but
Sainz was comparable to Max Verstappen when they were in the same team. It's all Giovinazzi has done is not crashed.
I don't know. I think he's now on the point where by the end of the season he'll start to compare favourably to Kimi.
I don't think he'll have done enough to keep his seat.
You'll have to put that in your list.
Yeah, I hope they give him time to. If he is coming if he is getting things together, I hope they give him time to another season.
I think
he's proven himself.
Don't forget, it's not down to Sauber whether he stays there or not. They can ask if he
They're
can.
not called Sauber anymore.
Well, no, but Sauber are managing the team, and that Sauber placed the drivers in the Alfa Romeo sponsored team. But it's not down to the team. It's down to Ferrari because
Yeah.
Ferrari have got the rights to put one driver in that car, and if Ferrari want to put somebody else in his seat,
Because Raikkonen isn't the driver
Yeah.
that Ferrari put in there.
yeah,
Definitely honest governor. I've got a sneaking suspicion a German guy with a familiar surname will be in that car next year.
I don't know, because he's doing a bit average, isn't he?
I don't think that matters. I think
Well, it does if he doesn't have the points.
Oh yeah, if he doesn't have the points, but the money.
He'll
money
have
and
yeah,
some money
well-
from FIA Formula
let me
3.
let me think. It's the FIA who can give special dispensation for super licenses.
Yeah,
Who's in charge of the FIA?
yeah.
What
That little
team?
French
What
lad,
team
innit?
did he used to run? Who was his favourite driver?
I personally think anyone in GP2 that isn't crashy, you will find will be able to get special dispensation to drive a Formula One car because
Or Sean Galale if his dad pays enough chicken
yeah.
money.
But if it's going to be a feeder series, knocking down a couple of the walls from from F2 into F1 is not the worst thing they can do.
No. But I just hope they don't put Schumacher into a Formula One team before he's ready.
Yeah, I think he needs another year.
I think you're
Yeah.
right, but I don't think he'll. I don't think. See, I don't know. I mean, does it work like that? Do you think? Do you think another year in GP2 will help, being where you're not getting used to Formula One, you're not getting used to how things work and how to set up a car?
I reckon what we'll probably see with Mick Schumacher next year is another year in GP2, but a few Friday mornings.
Maybe,
Possible, yeah.
maybe.
And
or even-
Pirelli tests that we don't even get to see.
Official reserve driver would be a good thing, so he's in the team every weekend doing what Lando was doing last year,
yeah.
getting the teas and getting to know the engineers and know how a race weekend works.
Stirring a cup of tea with a screwdriver or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
I wonder how many goes round Maranello he's getting we never hear about in old Formula One cars or older Formula One cars.
Exactly.
Or Formula Uno cars,
Yeah.
Is that like a card game?
pretty much.
Oh, right, okay. It could be that. I mean, look at how much extra training Lance Stroll got at Grand Prix circuits
And that
in
worked
Old
a
Williams.
treat.
Hey, he came fourth this weekend.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it was a good race.
And also, Ferrari are about to lose one of their simulator drivers, possibly both,
Mm-hmm.
because Brendan Hartley's going to be back in WEC full time with all his Formula One experience. That's going to help him.
Mm-hmm.
And Verline could be on his way out of the Ferrari program.
Well, if you're going to Haas, he might not be out of the...
No, but if
Program.
he's doing that, and I don't know, he says he still wants to do Formula E as well.
That
I
doesn't
don't know how
restart
well
for
that-
a little while, though,
That
does it?
that starts November.
Yeah, so he's got a few months.
So Ferrari could be looking for a reserve driver,
Mm.
and I think that would probably be the best role for Mick Schumacher. I can't think of anyone else in the Ferrari Junior program that would actually fit in because Callum Islet's nothing particularly special.
They've got quite a few, though, haven't they? They've got the other Lacey.
Juliana.
That's the one.
I don't think the reserve driver works either for a young driver. Not properly because
Only if you're
need-
getting the test, I think.
or
is-
if you're getting the Friday mornings and you're doing GP2, but
Yeah.
you need that constant race, and this is why.
He needs to be racing, but I think if he's brought into Formula One too early, more than any other driver, he is going to have such a media spotlight on
I
him.
think that'll happen, no matter when he comes in.
Yeah, but he needs to be able to deliver with it.
Then again, look at last year. He was nowhere in European F3 until the second half of the season, and all of a sudden he destroyed the rest of the field and took the title.
Yeah,
Which, if Dan Ticktum's to be believed, in dodgy circumstances.
it does seem weird. That
Well, the
whole
dodgy
situation did
circumstances, not
seem
that
weird.
Dan Ticktum went off the boil completely.
Might be.
No, but even then, you've still got the rest of the field. It seems weird to me that all of a sudden someone wakes up in the morning and goes, "Oh, fuck! I know how to drive these things."
Oh,
Well,
it's
he
the
might have had-
accelerator.
Might have had some driver coaching that just made
Maybe.
the difference
It's driver
between.
coaching,
maybe.
and they reckon with F2 in particular, the biggest thing for newer drivers in that series is the tyres, because usually you haven't dealt with that kind of Pirelli tyre and changing onto different compounds and stuff before that, so that's meant to be the big
Yeah.
learning things. So it was very unusual last year that it was all rookies that were at the forefront.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it'll be interesting to see what Mick Schumacher does in the second half of the GP2 season, or F2 season.
Yeah, definitely. It's difficult not to call it GP2, isn't it?
Yeah.
I keep doing it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I still keep calling the Arden GP2 cars the Force Indias. The pink ones in the second division.
Yeah.
That'll do. So, yeah, I mean, it could be that he does enough for Ferrari to put him in the car, but would Ferrari want him just to go straight into the big boy team? Like Schumacher in a Ferrari rather than Schumacher being powered by a Ferrari engine?
I think he'll go into Alpha.
This was the other thing they've got to keep in mind, is that if they bring him in and put him in a junior team or a feeder team of some description, they're only going to want him there for a couple of years before they move him up. So they need to wait and see what's happening with like Vettel and Leclerc. And
I think it might be a different story if, say, Michael Schumacher had been a homegrown Ferrari boy that came into Formula One with Ferrari. Then I think there might be some sort of romanticism about having his son come straight through into Ferrari. But, you know, it
But there's
wasn't
no
the way.
such thing as a homegrown Ferrari boy until
Nope.
Charles Leclerc.
No.
Because, I mean, Michael Schumacher was Mercedes in the early part of his career.
Yeah.
Then again, so was Mick Schumacher, because he had Mercedes sponsorship until Ferrari signed him up
Yeah.
last year. So I remember the first part of the European F3 season. He was he had a Mercedes logo on the back of his overalls, and that suddenly changed.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the reason why he improved. Ferrari have got better young driver coaches than Mercedes have.
their program is led by, I can't remember his name, but he was Carlos Sainz's race engineer when he was at Toro Rosso with the hair.
Oh,
He's in charge of all their youth.
But Ferrari's driver program hasn't been littered with Formula One drivers, has it? it's been littered with ex-Formula One drivers from different teams. So
Yeah, they don't make champions, they buy them.
yeah.
Right, well, next, Mercedes. Where do we start?
Bad weekend, wasn't it? Every team's going to have a bad weekend.
And
Mercedes have one every year, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, a third of the way through, they were running first and second.
Yeah.
Oh, if Hamilton hadn't slid off, he'd have breezed that race.
Great
He
week.
had it all under control.
Great week for him
Yeah.
to let the Netflix cameras in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they said that they were only doing one, maybe two races this season, and the first one was going to be at their home race.
Yeah. Whoops.
What a
Yeah.
Good
decision!
choice, guys.
Great to be in fancy dress for all the moody photos as well.
Yeah.
I really wasn't sure if I was looking at the garage or an artisanal gin bar.
There's a great photo. I put it in the driver quotes article that's online, and it's the pit wall, basically all sat in a row doing sort of poses before the race, and they do look like they're sat at a bar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, got off to a good start. Lewis Hamilton under the weather massively.
Yeah.
Was it a cold? Was it a stomach bug? God knows.
Don't know.
He wasn't well.
I think it definitely affected him because he made two mistakes, and you don't see Lewis Hamilton make big mistakes like that.
No.
But then, the further on the race got, the more it all turned to crap.
Mm.
And Bottas had a couple of spins before he's off.
Yep.
Hamilton losing it under the safety car, taking the front wing off. I'm disagreeing with David Coulthard here because he was saying on the Channel 4 commentary that he shouldn't have had the penalty.
I don't think he should have had the penalty.
I think he should have had the penalty. He went the wrong side of the bollard.
But he had no choice
In
from where he crashed. So
You do another lap then.
So you do another lap.
It was explicit in the race director's
But-
comments before the
that's
race started.
right. And I'm not saying this as a fanboy. That's ridiculous because if you've got bits falling off your car, that's dangerous.
It's unsafe to do another lap, and they should change the rules.
Yeah.
But
But
they
that
gave
is the rule.
they gave Vettel a penalty in Canada
Oh yeah.
for
yeah.
something where you can say, "Hang on, he didn't have much of a choice there," and they're giving Hamilton a penalty for something where
To be
what
fair,
he did was the sensible and
to
safe
be fair,
thing.
Vettel almost ran into the side of Hamilton.
Can I also point
Out of
out?
control.
Yeah.
Can I also point out that the bollard was there because of all the confusion with Lewis's pit stop, not a pit stop. Oh yes, it is a pit stop. No, it isn't.
Oh yeah,
At
last year.
this race last year.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That bollard was only put there. They were even calling it the Lewis rule on Thursday.
But
But-
the big difference is that was something where he had a choice to come in.
Yeah.
The pit stop on Sunday, he'd hit the wall.
Yeah.
He had to go into the pits. No two ways about it. Going round the circuit would have made him a dangerous obstacle.
Yeah.
He'd also have lost more than 5 seconds.
Yeah,
so it was-
and you'd have had a chunk of car fall off.
Mhm.
You might have had a big piece of front wing on the like on the back straight or something like that. So
Well-
then you've got under the safety
the
car.
circuit was
situation.
Well, it was under a safety car anyway,
Yeah.
so
Circuit was wet, the spray
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Someone could have hit him.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing to think about as well, as far as him even getting back into the pit. Like he'd have had no lock on that car at that speed
Yeah.
with no front wing.
I agree that the rule is wrong, but it was still the rule.
Yes.
Yeah, but I still think most rules can be countered by safety arguments. The big ones coming up, my big issue as far as penalties go is further down the line. It was a bad day for penalties being called this weekend.
But I mean, yeah. What more can we say about Mercedes apart from bloody hell?
Hamilton crashed. It's
He crashed at the worst possible time when they were expecting Bottas in for a pit stop. So
Yeah.
when he
Mhm.
turned up in the pits with no announcement,
Chaos.
yeah.
yeah, they couldn't have been caught out worse.
hmm
Um,
And it compromised Bottas as well, because
Yeah.
then he had to do another lap, I think, didn't he?
Oddly enough, I think the weekend, although Lewis's situation seemed more like extreme because he was leading the race, and then he had various moments where he was almost back in the fight for the win, then he was back to the back of the
Yeah.
field. But Bottas had the worst race of anyone this weekend,
Um,
barring maybe a Red Bull driver on thin ice.
I was going to say I'd put him second worst of the weekend
But
behind a Red Bull driver.
But the problem is, like, Bottas wasn't on the pace for like most of the race.
I'd say Charles Leclerc had a pretty bad weekend as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Or
Charles
pretty
had a bad
race.
weekend. Yeah, but the
Which
Well,
big
Charles
too.
Leclerc at one point looked like he was going to win it.
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
Bottas, even though he was second for a long time, really ever looked like the winner.
When we
Right.
get to Ferrari, I'll say why I think Charles Leclerc had the worst weekend.
switch
Cool.
the Mercedes drivers around here. Does Lewis Hamilton crash trying to chase down Lance Stroll? The speed disparity in those cars. Why was Bottas so on the ragged edge?
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been that way. It's like Lance Stroll. He didn't have a good race.
He had a good pit stop.
He had a good pit stop, and then he made that work
Mhm.
and didn't crash. So well on to him, because I thought
I think he had one spin, didn't he?
Yeah,
he
as
just had
soon
right place,
as-
right time.
as soon as they put him on slicks, though, well, this is that race ending behind a safety car.
We all said it, didn't
Yeah.
we? We all took the
Yeah.
piss.
yeah, I think ours was. We know where this one's going to
yeah,
go.
Oh no, not Lance Stroll first on slicks. What is that?
Yeah, but like Bottas in a Mercedes chasing Lance Stroll in
Mm-hmm.
a racing point.
Well done.
Yeah, I had to stop.
Not an Arden GP2 car.
No,
In the damp, he should be. He should have the confidence that Yale catch him. Yale
Mhm.
breeze past him. Shouldn't be pushing it. Shouldn't be taking risks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be. Oh, didn't get past him this time. We'll have plenty.
he should have been
more
on pace with.
opportunity.
He should have been
fine.
on pace at least with Verstappen.
Is this Bottas not handling the pressure of what Toto said before the weekend started about these are the two races that determine his future?
I think it's a mixture between that and the fact that if you remember back to Silverstone when he was in Williams, he's not very good in the wet.
No, that's true.
But it just if you're going to be Lewis Hamilton's teammate and you're gonna and you're gonna try and at least believe that you can beat him to a world championship, then if Lewis has those bad days,
You should be
You
picking
have
up the
to be
points.
he could have if he'd have been on it, he'd have been looking at 25 points off Lewis's lead and the championship's back on. That's what he needed. He needed Lewis to crash out and he needed to win a race for this to work. Do we think he's still in the car next year?
Very, very questionable at the
It's
minute.
it's looking less likely than it was this time last week.
Bad race at a bad time.
If
I think at this point it might depend on how Ocon's performing, how George Russell's performing, which
How do
is
you know how
pretty well.
Ocon's performing though?
Well, they were prepared to throw him in the car on Saturday morning,
Yeah.
weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, at one point on Saturday,
Well,
Lewis
he's-
might not have raced.
He's doing simulator work for every team, isn't he? Ocon?
Yeah, but simulator work and driving cars is different though, isn't it?
Yeah, he also did the Pirelli test last week.
Yeah, but this isn't out there wheel to wheel racing with people.
No, but at least he's getting track time,
Yeah.
which is more than simulator time.
Yeah, that's fine. But I s-
Simulator and Pirelli test is all Kvyat's done for the last year, and
And
He's back.
he's bounced back pretty
yeah,
well.
Yeah, I suppose so. I didn't think of Kvyat.
And it's what Brandon Hartley's doing with all his
all
WEC
his
experience.
I still think he's see, the thing is, it's not like for Kvyat, I can understand it because you're putting him back into Toro Rosso.
Mm.
Sticking Ocon in, you're sticking him in arguably the
A-team,
best
yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Best car on the grid, like championship winning car.
But yeah, I think it depends on if they can see someone with enough more than Bottas now than where the Bottas can save it.
The bad thing for Bottas is it's been his seat to lose since he
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah,
And
he's barely clung on to it.
yeah, I mean, it was Germany last year where they announced
Yes. Yeah.
he was getting another year.
Tell you what, if you think,
I mean, it was one of your It was
Yeah,
your bonus prediction.
I would not have been
Danny
surprised.
Rick wouldn't be a bad shout.
Danny Rick
No.
wouldn't be a bad shout.
But yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised going into this race weekend if they had announced a Bottas extension ahead of the race, and now it's like, nah, it's not going to happen for a little while yet.
They announced a non-announcement
Non-announced.
Well, haven't they said they'll sort everything out by the summer break?
over the summer break.
Over the
Over
summer
the
break.
summer
Yeah.
break.
Toto's quote was something like, Germany and Hungary, his performance in these two races will determine whether we keep him next year.
Which I find weird when people say things like that, because you think, well, if you've got to give him 2 races to prove himself to keep a seat halfway through a season, he's obviously not proved himself now.
It does seem a little odd. I mean, bearing in mind he's won races this season.
Yeah, but he's.
Maybe Toto wants to put him under the pressure, and
I think he wants someone closer to Hamilton.
yeah,
I mean, Bottas seems to be able to do it in qualifying, but I'd argue that Lewis Hamilton isn't having a good year. He's not having a bad year because he's winning races, but I think he's performing to like 60% of what Lewis Hamilton can do. He's doing what he needs to do to win a world championship this year.
he's locked into a couple of race wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won in Bahrain because Leclerc had problems. He won in Canada because Vettel had his situation. He won in Monaco because of Verstappen, not because of Verstappen's penalty, but he certainly was helped by Verstappen's penalty being less of a challenge, and he kind of blocked Bottas in the pit lane, and that shuffled the pack. Yeah, there've been a few.
They might be limited for options now as well because Paul di Resta after the race seemed to think
He
that,
might be a good fit.
Paul, a couple of years ago. But Paul di Resta said he thinks that with this win, this puts Verstappen out of his exit clause in his contract.
I think
Possible.
some people thought the first win did that.
Yeah. But also, if you're Verstappen, given how it's gone the last month or so, would you want to go anyway?
I don't know.
And I think I'd want to stay on with Red Bull because
It's your team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Mario. Is it Mario Iliam?
Ilmo.
The guy from Ilmor is now running the Honda engine development.
Yeah.
And of course, Ilmor were the ones who worked with Mercedes and made all those McLaren Mercedes engines.
Ron Dennis must be ripping his 3 hairs out because he suggested that, didn't he? When Honda first came into Formula One, it was he wanted them to work with Ilmor
Yeah.
on the engine, and that's when they wouldn't look
Yeah.
outside of Honda for what they were doing.
And now they are doing oh shit, 2 cars on the podium.
Yeah,
Ron could have kept his job.
Ron could have kept his job.
We
I could have kept Jensen.
we could see Fernando and Jensen taking first and second in God knows how many races.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I was going to say I've never cried and got a boner before, but here we are.
This will bring you back down. Williams.
Bring me back down.
This
Good
is
choice
the,
of
is
words.
this the latest we've ever talked about Williams?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
way through
Since
here.
Silverstone 2014?
Yes. Yeah. They've got a point.
They have got a point.
And that, at the moment, pending the Alfa Romeo appeal. But of course, that means about $3.5 million extra cash to the team for next year, because that will pay their transport costs.
Yeah. What a race for poor George to be behind.
The one time.
Oh, poor lad.
That was just strategy as well.
Strategy and the car updates, I think.
Well, I mean, George Russell got the car updates, but didn't get a chance to run them in FP3 on Saturday because what was it? He damaged the
He
floor.
ran over a curb and cracked the floor.
Kubica was on an all-new chassis, which I make his fourth different chassis of the season.
I don't know.
And you looking this one up.
I can give this a quick look.
Um,
Watch yourselves.
I mean, all right, they got points, but it was still not a flattering performance because they were still
the last finishers.
and they were still the slowest cars on the circuit.
Yeah. However, they finished. They didn't screw anything up. They didn't.
No, they should have rolled the dice, though. Jolyon Palmer
Yeah.
was right in his analysis of it. They should have rolled the dice with at least one of the drivers.
When Sauber were at the back of the pack, they were rolling the dice and doing what people thought were stupid strategies because it was the only way they were going to get anything other than coming last.
I
And
mean,
second to last.
the strategies were Ruth Busk and batshit, and sometimes they worked.
Absolutely. And if they'd stuck to the same strategy that everyone else was using, they would have come last and second to last guaranteed.
True. But I mean, one thing that Williams did get wrong was after the sort of, during the first pit stops, everyone started pitting for Inters.
Mm-hmm.
Both Williams cars stayed out.
Yeah, that was weird.
That didn't work, and I think within 3 laps, the drivers that had stayed on the wet tyres were running 10 seconds a lap slower than everyone on Inters.
Ooh.
Anyone else thought they were doing it for a bit of TV time?
I assumed they were trying to avoid Inters and were hoping the track would dry and they could just go straight onto slicks. But
I
Didn't
got the
work.
feeling that maybe they might have been trying to get a little bit more TV time money.
Possibly. Or it's a bad car. Maybe they asked the drivers how the wet tyres were and
they were like, who knows?
I mean, there's not been a great deal of running on Inters this year.
No, and you've got basically 2 rookies in the team.
yeah.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I think the strategy went wrong for them. They should have pitted at least one driver for Inters when everybody else was coming in, and they
I
missed the
think
trick there.
they should have put someone on slicks.
If you've got 2 cars in about the same bit of track and it's a bit 50-50, what do? You split it because you would assume one of them is going to get it right.
Or at least wait, because not everyone pitted when, like, the lap after Stroll had put wets on, slicks on. So you'd have thought that at least someone there would have thought, well, what's he doing?
Yeah.
How's he go? Oh, the third sector was okay. So, and got them in then.
But yeah, they weren't reactive when they should have been, and they were nowhere near being proactive at all.
Well, this was a bit like it's old Williams because it's masked now because they're so bad. But remember when they had a good car and like they were second in the World Championship, it was like they'd forgot how to win races and they'd forgot how to go racing.
We used to call it Smedleying.
Yeah. And it seems that is still present.
Yeah, they're not willing to take the risks that might get good results or might get even worse results. But
You'd think running at the back would give you the freedom to do
Yeah.
that, wouldn't you?
as I say, Sauber did when they were at the
Yeah.
back because why not?
Yeah.
I mean, the only issue that Sauber had at that time was Ericsson and Nasser trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Shame. It could have been interesting that. It's
But there's some good things for them. They are a lot closer to the back of the pack than they were.
I hope so. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the dry, but I don't even think we will see that in Hungary because Hungary is such an aero and chassis dependent
Yeah.
circuit.
I think we're going to be back to without safety cars 3 laps down at the end.
Maybe not 3, maybe 2, maybe 1.
It's a
but
short lap.
It is a short lap, but I think it's going to be after the summer break we see
Well, I
if
don't think Spa will be good for them either.
They got a good lump in the back of the car, though.
They're great through the
Spa
speed.
can be wet as
They're
well.
great through the speed traps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could see a jump at Monza.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Does anyone know if they're bringing updates next week for Hungary?
Apparently, they are now bringing updates to practically every race until Japan.
So
Yeah.
could still work out.
It'd
for
be
them.
it'd be nice if they can get to. Wouldn't it be good if they could get to that possible sort of Toro Rosso sort of area?
What,
Third.
third?
Yeah, 'cause not
Well,
this
no,
week.
not this weekend. But I mean, as average,
But,
you know,
but maybe battling with a Haas
yeah.
when they're not battling with themselves.
Hassling.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but somebody was quoting George Russell as saying it's going to be even better when we get the new front wing in, because all the updates were from the cockpit backwards,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there's a whole new front wing assembly to come in, which that is such a major part of the aero, as Scarbs has told us, that we could actually see changes when they managed to get the air pointing in the right direction.
I wonder what's happened. What's gone on there? Because the car was late being prepared. Then we know you had all the issues with what's his name? I forgot his name.
Paddy Lowe.
Paddy Lowe. And things being behind, and because they even said that things were stuck in like a production
Yeah.
line to get things onto the car. So now, obviously, the upgrades they should have had from the beginning of the season are starting to creep through.
They've been doing mechanical upgrades for the first bunch of races, which has brought them slowly towards the back of the pack.
But it almost makes you. It almost feels like someone has convinced somebody. Look, we need to do this. This is whether it's money or resources that need to be pushed around, and the ideas that were in the pipe anyway are now starting to come out.
It's the Patrick Head shouting effect.
Well, apparently he was just there for show, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it's got to have started before he was brought in.
Yeah.
I'd kind of forgotten he was there, to be honest.
He was only there for a weekend.
I know,
wasn't he,
but
and
I'd
he's
sort of
gone.
forgotten that was ever a thing.
They conveniently had him in the garage when he'd already booked a weekend away in Shanghai with the family.
Yeah, bit of fucking
Because everyone knows
PR.
everyone knows Shanghai's a really great and easy place to get to for a weekend break if you live in Oxfordshire.
But this process must have started around the time Paddy Lowe stepped back from the team, or was stepped back from the team.
I don't think he was being listened to.
What wasn't as involved.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is just pure speculation. I don't think he was being listened to, and whatever he was trying to push forward was getting knocked back. And he's gone, right, well, I'm off then. And he's left the team. And it's only now that things he was trying to get pushed through for the car are starting to get onto the car.
Maybe. And again, I'm going on chat we had with Scarbs this time last year.
Yeah.
When he was telling us that the 2018 Williams, was that aerodynamically sensitive that it was stalling at full speed when it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And if there was an inherent problem with the actual chassis design, they wanted to get that fixed before they moved on to major aero improvements. And this year's aero is based on last year's, which was flawed to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's kind of exacerbated the problem.
Is it based on last year's? Because this would have been a low car, wouldn't it? This year's car would have been a low car. Last year's wouldn't have been.
The upgrades would have been.
Yeah, if
Or
you
the development would have been, because don't forget there was still going into the summer break. The car was aerodynamically unstable.
yeah, that's what I mean. But like, what should have been this car this year should have been Paddy Lowe's Williams, and they stopped development on last year's car well early. So I don't think the aero updates you were getting for this year were based on last year's car, because all you need to do is
Well, no,
look
I'm
at
talking
it.
about the initial aero design, which is basically what they've had to use.
No, because it looks. If you go back to Australia, the differences between the two cars are massive. There's so many more like little Mercedes-isms on the Williams this year than what it had last year. I know what you mean, but I think they just threw that
I
car
think
in the bin.
this would have been throwing things on it to correct the faults that were there with last year's car, and I think this year's car is more of an evolution rather than a redesign. But they were trying to evolve from
No, I
a
think it was a
completely
redesign.
bad package.
I think it's a redesign. And they've lost their chief engineer or technical director. That's what's happened. It's been a complete redesign, and then someone's left with the manual.
It's been a complete clusterfuck.
Yeah, but this is the thing. No matter what happens to Williams now, surely they're still fucked for next year because they don't have a technical director, do they?
They've now, I think, other people from within the company are fulfilling the roles, and I think they've gone to the McLaren Matrix management. The one that
Doesn't work. Yeah, it seems odd. Like it's.
I can see it now. Next year's surprise Williams announcement: Ron Dennis.
I wouldn't put it past that next year Williams rock up to testing with an altered version of this year's car.
I'm glad you think they'll rock up to testing.
Yeah,
That's an
after
improvement.
this year, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon the car we'll see next year will be the MPFW 20.
Maybe. Unless Mercedes step in, like if they're gonna keep pumping a Mercedes driver into that team, maybe they start pumping some knowledge into it as well.
Well, I think if they've got a pile of updates that they're going to be bringing to every race, got to see what they do.
Hope so. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm being all doom and gloom here, but I think Williams' problems are bigger than a front wing.
Yeah.
They're now at the stage of the season where if there are updates coming to every race up until Japan, it is just throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Well, the other thing is, after the summer breaks, 3-4 races in, that's when teams are going to start starting to develop on next year's car. So, how far can they actually push this car up the grid?
Well, quite far if everyone else stops developing.
Well, yeah, maybe.
But
maybe.
what's the point if it's
Yeah.
only going to affect next year?
Yeah, great.
there's
Great,
no-
we can get a nailed-on 14th place, and then next year we're still in exactly the same position as we were at the start of this year.
We don't have major rule changes for next year, do we?
Major rule changes.
Major rule changes.
I know there's not.
It's
so everyone's next year's car is just going to be an evolution
Yeah.
of this year's
This
car.
is true.
yeah, that is actually a fair point because the next big redesign is going to have to come for the 2021 regulations in 2023. That's now my catchphrase, by the way.
I can't help but think that Williams' road map looks more like Dante's Inferno.
Shall we move on? Haas.
Flattering.
Zach and
I
both.
think, is
Let's move on.
Oh,
7th and 8th.
7th and 8th, they got there through penalties.
Mm-hmm.
9th and 10th over the line, wasn't it?
Yes, I think in his quotes, I think Gunter Steiner said that was flattering and better than they deserved to be, and that was before they got bumped up.
And it looks like they're now about to impose very firm team orders.
Well, yeah, 2 races
Yes.
in a row they've driven into each other. They got away with it this time, but
Yeah. So whoever comes into the Haas team will have to follow the new orders.
mm-hmm.
Are we going to see Pascal Wehrlein in that car?
That is the chatter.
Do you get rid of one? Do you get rid of both?
You won't get rid of both halfway through the season.
No, that's too exciting.
Yeah.
That's
Toro Rosso from
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, who else do you plug into a car? But
Oh God, if Ferrari have got a seat option, then it could be Brendan Hartley.
No.
he probably wouldn't crash as much.
I don't know, he had some good ones last year, didn't he?
could they
He
bring
didn't have
Pietro
any-
Fittipaldi in?
No.
Don't think he's quite ready yet, points-wise. But yeah, Brendan Hartley, no small crashes. Never just had a little bumper. It was
Yeah.
always trash the car.
But never
a
into his
fence.
teammate.
Ah,
Baby
no,
step,
China,
baby steps.
China,
Yeah.
Gasly hit him. Was it Azerbaijan in qualifying? He was like pootling in the corner as Gasly comes round and nearly wiped
He
him
was
out.
pootling around the corner because his rear wing had fallen off.
Probably.
Yeah, that's it.
probably.
So, I think one of them. Well, it's going to be Grosjean, isn't it? If one of
Yeah.
them's gone, it's going to be Grosjean.
Yes.
I feel a little bit sorry for him, to be perfectly honest, because I still think that the 2 incidents he's had over the last 2 races have been more Magnussen's fault than his, but he's not blameless.
No.
And also, he's just not there at the start of the seasons.
Nope.
Whereas
This is the
Magnussen's
second
there
year
through-
on the trot.
Mm.
Yeah.
But again, this is another reason I feel sorry for him. He had the Australian spec Haas this weekend, and he's been complaining about the Haas all year, saying that they've gone the wrong way in development and they've made the car worse. They give him the car from Australia with no upgrades on it. He outqualifies his teammate and has a better race.
Yeah.
So he had a point.
The problem is it's signal to noise ratio, isn't it? Because he whinges that much about everything.
Yeah.
that-
He is the
Oh.
boy that cried wolf.
Yeah, at one point he's going to be right, but you're probably going to miss it
Yeah.
just because it's
You're too
hidden
busy
in
telling
the
him to
mom.
shut up.
Changing brake manufacturer yet again.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're probably right. He is a big complainer, and that can't be a nice thing to have around the team. It's because it's not even just some drivers criticize the team and stuff like that. Certain people, when they want to put across like a legitimate concern, come across as crying,
Yeah.
and he comes across as crying about
Yeah, I mean,
things.
it was a couple of years ago, wasn't it, that Gunter Steiner told him to shut up over
Yeah,
the radio
yeah,
when
yeah.
he was complaining about something or other.
Well, didn't he have the "I'm not whinging" decal on the helmet one practice session?
Yeah.
Probably.
But again, we do say this often: is it all depends on what the producers want us to hear.
Yeah.
Very true.
Oh yeah, but he does tend to complain a lot in interviews with outside the team and outside of TV,
Yeah.
and that's going to have a negative effect on the team.
Of course it is.
And yeah, he just whinges his way through, and it would be all right if he complained and still managed to perform through all the complaining. I mean, you listen to Lewis Hamilton's radio,
Yeah.
and all right, again, this is what the TV producers want us to hear. We always say that all these tyres are going off. This is the wrong choice. Oh, you're on the wrong strategy. Great job, guys. I didn't think we'd ever get that win.
Yeah.
Grosjean can't cool the tyres. Can't get the tyres up to temperature. Brakes aren't working. Having trouble with the steering. I'm 12th.
Well, Button was one as well. We talk about only hearing one thing from a driver. If you thought that was the only messages were the ones you heard, you'd think every message Jensen put out was, "I've got no rear grip."
Oh, the classic George Russell one from last year. They'd been on team radio loads on the TV, and then towards the end of the race, looking up at the screen, and he's featured on team radio again. Oh, why are they always putting my radio messages out? But yeah, with Grosjean, it's not just what you hear during the race; it's what you read in interviews, in quotes, what he says in the media pen. And the hardest job in F1, I swear, is Grosjean's press handler.
We saw it as well, didn't we, in the Netflix series where they had a big Haas meeting, a meal, and he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Magnussen was there, everyone was there, but Grosjean didn't show.
Perhaps he was in the kitchen.
Well, you know,
Oh,
that's a fair point. He
could
could have been cooking. But...
I didn't like not Verstappen. I didn't like Magnussen's move on Carlos Sainz either. You know, Carlos Sainz, he went wide. I think was it into turn one. I can't remember.
Very
what
early
turn,
on in the race, yeah.
But when you actually look at that incident, Magnussen came steaming over onto the racing line, and it wasn't so much he forced him off the track because there was enough of a gap there, and Carlos Sainz obviously avoided like collision. But if Carlos had left his car there, they'd have had a crash.
Yeah.
And I don't like. I'm up for hard racing with people, but I don't like the. I'm going to do this, and if you don't get out of the way, we're going to have a massive accident. And that seems to be the way Magnussen goes about his racing.
Kind of works for Verstappen sometimes, though.
I think there's a difference between banging wheels with someone like, because we're not just talking about a little thump here. We're talking about he's just driving at you, and there's going to be wheels and carnage everywhere. Yeah, I don't, because Max Verstappen's much more measured than that. The difference with say the move on.
I don't think early Verstappen was.
Oh, he wasn't. No, he is now.
Now,
but, yeah.
this year's
But like,
Verstappen.
say, if you take the move he did on Leclerc, which I still think was just absolutely on the edge of what we should allow in Formula One, they made contact, but he knew going into that corner that they weren't going to go out of the race.
Yeah.
When Magnussen came across at Sainz, if they'd have hit each other, he had no idea. He might have gone into fucking orbit for all he knew.
So, are we all agreed? Haas should get rid of Grosjean.
I think
if they are going to bin anyone. I'm talking during the season.
This weekend.
During the season.
Yeah. I think Grosjean of the two is the one who's more likely to get on the podium or win a race, even if the circumstances were right. Magnussen's the one more likely to get a high championship place.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He's more consistent, I think,
Yeah.
isn't he?
I think if they can get someone in the team that they can keep for next year, maybe Verline, as you were talking about, isn't it? Getting the seat. I think if they can get someone in and he works and he's doing well and he's comparable to Magnussen, they can then, towards the end of the season, think about dumping Magnussen as well and look for somebody else. Get the first driver in and see how he is, and then hopefully get rid of the other liability. Because if Grosjean goes and they still keep banging into each other, or Magnussen still keeps banging into people, then you've still got the same problem, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe demote Grosjean rather than putting him on gardening leave, cooking leave.
Yeah, maybe.
Team
Maybe.
chef.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he's been looking at Formula E next year, hasn't he? So he must know when you're a
I
Formula.
can't remember who tweeted it in response to you when you put that out, but they said, and there aren't enough crashes in that.
Yeah, but like if you're a Formula One driver and you're looking into Formula E for the following season, you know your future's not bright in that sport.
Yeah. But again, if he's not in Haas, where would he be? Formula
E. Yeah.
Yeah, he's too much of a liability for endurance racing. Would you want him driving an Indy car on an oval?
No, if you don't want deaths.
And I think that's his only option. And I think next week we could be seeing his last race in F1.
I reckon if he joined Indy, you'd see a crash so big it would rip a hole of time and space.
Are we talking NASCAR levels of oh my god, it's fire?
Yeah. Next thing is Grosjean's in a ball of flames and comes to rest in like 1958.
Dressed as a member of the Mercedes pit crew. Oh god, I'll have an artisanal gin. Right, on to the next team, one where the future is bright and the future is orange. See what I did there?
Very clever.
Yeah.
McLaren.
Phone jokes.
Reference in the 90s.
I got hit by Grosjean earlier. I've just come back from it
Is
now.
Orange still a company?
No, they're called EE
I think,
now.
yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
they
that was
conglomerated, didn't they? with
Yeah,
someone?
everything everywhere.
Well, they've gone and they've given us Richard Bacon. Oh no, Rich Bacon's not Richard Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon's
Yeah.
free, isn't he?
But they used to sponsor Arrows.
He's the one that keeps popping up on my television trying to tell me that I can't stream a movie on 4G, isn't he?
Fifth place for Carlos Sainz. Great performance.
Yeah.
Particularly after getting sort of Magnussen early
Well, it was
on
kind-
and dropping down.
I mean, it was a good performance because he just kept his head down. It was a proper Carlos Sainz race, wasn't it? He didn't necessarily earn the position. Chaos ensued around him.
He did
And
have
yes,
a
but
near miss.
He didn't have
Oh
chaos.
no!
He
I'm
had
not
one,
taking
didn't
away
he?
from
He
it.
had
Yeah,
he did go wide and sort of, I think, lightly
is
brushed
Prost.
the barrier.
he is the new Prost.
Just does exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
It does make me wonder if McLaren sort themselves out to where they're a top team. I do wonder whether in modern Formula One that sort of person can win a world championship.
I think there's every possibility because he gets just a little more out of the car than you'd expect him to. Not massive amounts. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking stick him in a Williams and he'd get
See,
into Q2.
I don't think he does get anything more than what the car can produce.
But
I think he does exactly what the car can do.
But if McLaren become a team that's capable of winning races and championships, then he will be able to drive that car to races and possibly
if
championships.
they give him
Or
the
is he
best car on
boss
the
ass?
grid. No, I think if they give him the best car on the grid, he won't crash it.
Oh no, he won't. He won't crash it. But I mean, if
I think he could be Rosberg.
yeah, so, no, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see him as a world champion. But I wonder if he's too steady sometimes, and I wonder if he's too negative because he's so negative in every. And even when he gets a good result, he's very surprised that it happened, and I didn't think the car had the pace in it and stuff like that. I just wonder whether if he can. That negative attitude's good because he keeps surprising himself in a mid-grid car. But when you've got a car where you're expected to win, if he still keeps that attitude, I think it might be quite negative.
I think you
for
see him coming across as more negative just because of the amount of positivity that you see from Lando.
Possibly. That's
It's not necessarily negative so much as it's modest
yeah.
next to Lando.
Whereas Lando is just
He's constantly been too let loose with the Haribo, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's full of E numbers.
He's got in one hand a bag of Haribo and in the other hand Johnny Herbert's luck.
while attached to a drip full of Sunny D.
Yeah.
What was it this week? He lost power.
Lost power, yeah.
I mean, he had a battery problem.
Transmission,
I
that
think it's
rings a
something
bell.
like that, yeah.
He had a battery problem in qualifying, which lost him round about a tenth, which would have been enough to get him out of Q1, and possibly into Q3.
Mm-hmm.
So it was down on power for that, and then the car just expired.
Yeah,
Bloody shame.
it was a shame.
Because he came out of the pit that he broke down just after his pit stop, and he came out ahead of Lance Stroll on that pit stop. He was just ahead of him in the pit lane.
So if things had
when you see where Stroll finished,
yeah, things had worked out differently, we could have actually seen Lando leading a race at one point.
Well, even when Sainz slid off, that was Lando up ahead of Sainz then.
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do wonder whether the old Lando podium might have happened.
Could have.
I think there would have been a bloody good chance.
Given who he was racing, he was definitely in that area.
Loved his quote just before the race about he's going to do what he can to keep Vettel behind him for as long as possible.
Didn't last long, did it?
No, 2 corners.
Well, do you know what that I thought was amazing? If you watch that start, showing the difference between like cars compared to the Ferrari, Vettel had done Lando and both Williams before the start line.
Jesus.
Yeah.
he was he was still on the grid
Yeah.
spaces. I think he didn't get anyone else, but he got like the 2 Williamses before the start line.
That Ferrari can start.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good result for McLaren, and they're still progressing. I think it's just really, really good to see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we say this every week, and you know, best season in bloody ages.
I think by the end of this season, or maybe early next season, they might be up there with the top 6. Might be a top 8.
Norris had a P6 a couple of races ago. I think it was Austria, where all of what we call the top 6 finished.
Finished,
He,
and there was
he
no
genuinely
shenanigans.
beat
Yeah.
Gasly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it could easily happen.
They might get bumped down another one though when he gets replaced.
Yeah, how much of that was the McLaren and how much of that was Gasly is a different argument. But,
But they're kind of the new Haas though at the moment because
No, the drivers like each other.
no for Haas from
I
last
think
year.
they're like a Haas 2.0. I
Yeah,
think.
because the car's good, like the Haas was good last year, but it's always binary, isn't it? You only get one good finish from
Yeah.
McLaren most of the time.
But I think that it's different reasons to Haas.
Oh yeah,
With Haas, it was
Drivers driving
it's
into
binary
things.
Because
because
one driver could drive.
one
that
of the
week.
one of the drivers is an absolute liability, and one of the other driver is a driver. This time round with McLaren, it's
it's technical. Like
Yeah.
There've been breaks, there've been engine
it's like you say, it's
fires.
Johnny Herbert's luck.
yeah. I think in my mind, because I know it was a bit 50-50, wasn't it? Was it Spain where Lando went out? I can't remember. There was whatever Danny Kvyat hit him. I think it was Spain.
Was it not China where I think did Kvyat hit him into signs? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking. Was that
think
China?
That
was
was
it?
China.
Oh, the putting him into orbit gif.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I think that was kind of more Kvyat's fault than it was Lando's.
Mm.
But there was one other start he had, wasn't it, where he crashed, and that was definitely his fault. But he's only like all the retirements he's had. I think there's only been one which was a Lando
Yeah.
retirement.
Yeah, everything else just seems to have been mechanical problems.
Yeah,
You
And
know.
it's his rookie season, and how many rookies have not
Hmm?
done something stupid in their rookie season?
I think he's one of the best rookies we've had through for ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Right, Racing Point. The third most binary team.
But yeah, I mean Perez did 3 corners? About that.
3 corners and then lots
Then
of backwards.
drove in a circle. And
It looked from the onboard that he was struggling with the back end of the car, and I think he'd actually got a rear puncture or a suspension problem
he said it was
before
just
the spin.
his error.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Ah, right. Because he struggled through the 2 corners before he lost it. And, yeah, that's it. Game over. I was expecting more from him.
Yeah.
Like
He
a
would be
lap.
one with like funny tyre management and the opportunity for a random podium. He would be the one you'd look at, really, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I wonder if when he went out and he was going to have some kind of crazy whacked out tyre strategy and they were going to take the chances, they just decided throw the random strategy at Stroll.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to wonder whether he's in danger for next year.
He's not outperformed Stroll as much as we might have expected.
And they don't need the money
Not
from
as
him as
much,
much as
no.
they used to now.
This is why I reckon we could see him in a Haas next year,
I think it has to be a good shout.
because he brings the
Yeah,
infamous
they'd
backing
quite
with him.
like the money. And he's better at tyres than them.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's bring the experience as well.
Yeah, because Verline, if he goes in, he's not massively experienced. He's been knocking around for ages, but he's been out of F1 for 2 years now.
Yeah. And even then, he only had a season and a half.
Yeah,
No, 2 seasons.
2
wasn't it?
seasons, one with
One with
Manor, one with Sauber.
So, a season and a half.
Yeah.
I wonder if that happened if Mercedes could get George in that car instead of being in Williams.
But this is the thing. You said you reckon that the lineups for 2020 will be the ones going into 2021. Would Mercedes not want George Russell in the car for 2021? Would they want
This is
George Russell in another team long term?
If they don't stick him in, I mean, if he's not in their team if he's not in Mercedes next year anyway, then that's null and void. It doesn't matter where he is. So I don't think that really matters unless they're going to put him in the Mercedes next year, which I still think there's a chance. I still think there's an outside chance of him getting that drive over Ocon. But if there's a chance of him getting a better car, which we think the Force India is going to be reasonably good again next year with the new wind tunnel and stuff that's being built for them and all the facilities that are getting put in place, I think I'd prefer to be in a Force India than a Williams.
Yeah.
Historic car.
Yeah.
Force India.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Damn it. I think I would prefer to be in an old Force India than a Williams, yeah.
Last year's Force India was faster than this year's Williams.
Yeah. So
That's a scary prospect. But Lance Stroll getting out of Q1.
Yeah, good weekend all round, really, for him.
Yeah, leading a race.
is he coming together
Possibly.
He's-
He is. I've just double checked. He is 4 places ahead of Perez in the standings.
in the championship
Yeah.
standings? Wow.
Blimey.
Yeah, I imagine that's mostly from this weekend,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
still.
I don't think he's coming together. I think he is. Occasionally has a weekend when everything comes together for him.
When it pisses it down.
He does like the rain, doesn't he?
Or a street circuit.
When he got his third in Baku, he was so far up because it had rained during qualifying.
Yeah.
He qualified well in Monza the year before when it rained.
Mm-hmm.
Did well in Monza the year before when it rained. Got a 4th here in the wet. I've said he only seems to be at the top of his game in the wet.
He does. I mean, you can't count on him as far as certainly not in qualifying. But we seem to be having this conversation of going, not a bad race for Lance Stroll.
Fewer mistakes,
More
definitely
often
this
than
year.
we used to.
Yeah, I mean when he first started, it was what the hell is he doing there? And that lasted that lasted really until Italy.
Canada.
Well, yeah, I suppose Canada. Yeah,
Just as well because he's not going anywhere.
So, like, he's the first Canadian not called Villeneuve to lead a race as well.
Oh, is he?
Apparently so.
you said it, baby.
I read it on Twitter, so it must be true. I have not fact-checked
I
that,
think
but
that might have been a Sean fact.
it might have been. It may have been. I can't remember where I read it, aside from the Twitter.
Yeah, somebody tweeted he's the first Canadian to lead a race since Jacques Villeneuve, and to which somebody pointed out he's the first Canadian in a race since Jacques Villeneuve.
Still the first Canadian.
Yeah.
Well, a Formula One race.
Yeah.
Facts is facts.
But yeah, he is improving, and he bloody needs to, because you've got to look at it this way. Like you say, he's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He has that seat as long as Racing Point is run by his dad,
Yeah.
and whatever he
I
does.
do think he could drive badly enough to lose it. I think at some.
He's fully capable of it.
I think Daddy Stroll is fully capable of saying,
He's
"Look,
a smart
son,
businessman,
enough's
isn't he?
enough. Yeah.
It would take a hell of a lot.
Let's take your massive hulky head and we'll go somewhere else.
Anyone notice this week? It looked like he'd had his eyebrows trimmed. They look
Oh.
like normal person's eyebrows.
No,
I
they
did not notice
No,
this.
they didn't.
All right, they look like normal person who needs an eyebrow trimmed.
They look
Maybe
like
that's
nose.
the difference. Maybe if you don't have your eyebrows blocking your entire vision, you can see racetrack and drive well.
They look like normal people's hair, each one of them.
But I think what we've seen here this weekend is Racing Point / Force India's one good one of the year. They
I
usually
hope not.
they usually get one
Yeah.
weekend a year where they're really good, and you think, oh, this is the upturn, and then they just go back to being a bit
Don't forget, they
average.
did have a load of updates this weekend as well. You know, the whole back end of the
Yeah.
car is new.
Mm.
Mm.
So it's, I mean, you probably wouldn't have seen exactly what that would have done because of the craziness that went on during the race.
Mm.
Be interested to see what happens.
And
in
normally
Hungary.
they improve through the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are good developers generally.
I think we'll see the true colours of that car
Mm.
in Belgium, not Hungary,
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
because Hungary is just it's anything designed by Adrian Newey or ripped off Adrian Newey that's going to do well.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a bit because we've got a preview to do after all this. Right, something that we've not said this late on in a show before: Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
On paper, 3rd and 6th. That's the best team result.
Yeah.
They are the combined best, aren't they?
Yeah.
It is-
First
what the
podium
hell?
for 11 years.
Yep, since Monza 2008.
Yes. All 3 drivers on the podium, products of the Red Bull Young Driver Programme. So it has worked at some point in the past.
Yeah. It's-
A
and you
podium
can,
that was splattered in Mercedes logos as well, which I'm sure will have gone down well.
I mean, you can tell it by the Trail of the Dead.
Yeah.
But they've done it this weekend.
Second best hardcore band ever.
I don't know. I just really like the band name.
But yeah, I mean, Danny Kvyat back on the podium, became a father on Saturday, so we now have the 3rd generation of PKs.
Mhm.
Yeah. Congratulations to him
Yep.
for all of that.
And as yet unnamed Kvyat PK project. Because he said in the media pen afterwards that they haven't decided on the name yet.
Well, he hadn't met her at that point.
No,
so
that's true. They were
that's
going to
probably
go. They were going to
the
go
issue.
back and talk about it. I said yesterday. I wonder if there'll be a German name in there just to celebrate this.
Hockenheim.
Hockenheidi. Have we now seen the complete turnaround of Danny Kvyat since the torpedo incident?
I think we'd seen it already.
Yeah, he's been on the up.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not.
He's been at the start of the season. He was beating Gasly sometimes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He
Then-
didn't have a great race again. He had a good strategy. It was a bit like Stroll.
Lot of luck.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there were points when him and Gasly were racing, and he was holding Gasly behind him.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's fine. Good. Well, lots of people hold Gasly up. He kind of did get Albon got where he was because Albon was running 4th once
Yeah.
at some point before the chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, he was running there on pace. Don't forget, like at some point he was it going into turn 1 or something like that after the restart. He was having a go at Lewis Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
for
He
3rd.
had a
Like
look.
Said that he didn't want to get drawn into a battle with Lewis Hamilton because he knew it was one that he couldn't win long
Yeah.
term.
Well, I thought to myself after that race, because I kind of got caught up a little bit in the Danny Kvyat got a podium situation. I thought, well, they're obviously going to put Danny Kvyat in that Red Bull. I don't think they are now. Now I've had a day to sleep on it. I think it's going to be Albon that's in that car after the summer break.
I think it's not going to be an easy choice for them, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
There's strong arguments for both, really.
The problem is with putting Albon in the car, especially midway through the season, is that they'll be doing to him what they've done to Gasly times 100.
And
unless
Kvyat
you
to
can unless you can
Kvyat
cope
as
with
well.
it. You know, they did it to Max, and although Max won his first race, and I know he
Yeah.
was crashy, but it worked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I honestly believe the worst thing that Kvyat could do is move into the Red Bull.
I think you're right. Yeah. See, the worst thing that could happen for Kvyat is, and this is one of the reasons I think it'd be bad for them to put him in. I think he'll only get half a season in it.
Now, Helmut Marko was saying straight after the race that Pierre Gasly's not about to be replaced over the summer break.
Interesting.
by Hungary.
So it has been officially denied.
And he said this before they even asked the question.
It's interesting as well to look at Christian Horner's post-race interview, because he congratulated Verstappen, then he congratulated Kvyat, then he congratulated the mechanic that was on the podium, then he commented on Gasly's performance.
Yeah.
That's the ranking.
And what was it? Shame.
I was like, oh yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment. It was a real like, oh yeah, and Gasly was
He ran
also
into
in
the
a
back
car.
of Albon.
Yeah.
Ran into the back of Albon.
And didn't get punished because he'd only disadvantaged
He
himself.
got punished enough when he
Yeah.
ran
You've
off
let
the track.
yourself down. You've let the team down.
Now go to Hungary and think about what you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't even crash properly. That's like you run into the back of someone and you don't even damage them.
It must be an awful thing for him, mustn't it, when you've been given this massive opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because realistically, getting like a Red Bull drive is you've realised your life's dream is to be in
Yeah.
a top team in Formula One,
Mm-hmm.
and for it to completely collapse under you.
Yeah.
You've been given the keys to the kingdom, but you put the trousers that they were in the wash.
Yeah, give him the keys to the kingdom. You're trying to get in next door. That's what's happening. So do you think it goes back to Toro Rosso if they do?
I think they'll keep him on the programme till the end of the season.
Yeah,
and
for this
then-
year I think
yeah.
they'd have to, wouldn't they? Because what else have they got?
I think they might have to for next year as well. You know, they have been running out of drivers for a little bit, haven't they?
I mean, they're grooming O'Ward, aren't they? But I
Mhm.
don't know if he's going to be ready.
O'Ward's going to be another year off.
Yeah, he'll
But,
be in F2 next year, I reckon.
Honda's... Oh, can't remember what it's called. The one that keeps winning Super Formula.
Jensen Button's teammate.
Yes.
Yeah, can't remember his name, but yes.
And he has...
Not Takuma Sato.
No.
No. Who didn't crash into anybody in the Indy race
Did he
yesterday.
not?
I was amazed
Did he not
by
just
that.
crash into gravel all by
Yeah,
himself?
he just got very gravelly. I didn't know they called him the Beast.
No, I didn't know this either.
Like it.
I assume the rest of that is from the East, because it's an easy one to do. But yeah, Jensen Button's teammate in Super Formula, he's got the requisite points for a super license. Honda are backing him to the hilt, and it looks like he's going to be doing Friday morning in Suzuka.
He was very heavily rumoured for Friday morning this week, and it just didn't
Just
happen
didn't
for
happen.
whatever reason, but it was reported beforehand. I mean, there is a test coming up next week, so maybe that could happen.
So, yeah, so
Maybe we might even see him before the end of the summer break. Not in a Red Bull, obviously, but you know, if they promote Gasly,
if
No,
one of the Toro,
They
if one of,
promote Gasly to like, above motor racing.
well, the might,
ascend, child.
We've promoted him to the pit wall.
they might do to Gasly what they did to Kvyat. We haven't dropped him; he's just sitting out for a couple of races,
Yeah.
and then he'll
Mhm.
come back.
And that did not
Christian
really work.
Horner holding him above Formula E. Everything the light touches.
So yeah, it could be that Red Bull actually take a 30-year-old driver from outside the program. But then again,
Oh, is he 30?
this guy's 30, yeah.
Yeah, he's not a kid.
Ooh.
But the thing is, though,
I don't think he'll do it. I don't think I've Japanese and
Well,
Honda backed
Yeah,
or
but
not.
he's Honda,
he'd
isn't he?
be-
That's the thing.
He'd be bringing his vast experience from Super Formula.
I do not believe, even with Honda behind him, that he'll get his way into Formula One.
I think he would need to do something special on a Friday morning.
Yeah, like pole.
All on a Friday morning
Yeah.
would be a thing.
if you've got Honda saying, give him a drive, and then we'll tell you what this switch actually does on the engine.
I think they'd be shooting themselves in the foot if that switch was there. No, 30 years of age is too old, especially to come into Toro Rosso. Like when you look at everything that has been like the ethos of Red Bull.
Oh yeah, they'll have you as soon as you walk.
Has been a youth movement. They're not gonna change that for some guy that drives Japanese touring cars.
He doesn't just drive touring cars; he drives Super Formula as well. So he's got plenty. He's won Super Formula twice.
Okay, they're not going to do that for some guy that drives in Japan.
He's got single seater experience at least.
And we know what Super Formula drivers coming through to Formula One have done so well in the past.
Yeah, Gasly being an example.
Stoffel Van Dorn.
Yes.
We'll have to see, but we could be into the last race or two of Toro Rosso in this lineup the way things are going.
I think so. I don't think Gasly will be in the Red Bull after summer break. It'd be stupid for Red Bull. I was only thinking about it, looking at the points total. If they had like literally any other driver on their program in Gasly's car, they'd probably be above Ferrari in the championship. Because it's only there's not a lot of points in it.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to do maths. There's 40, 46? 40, yeah, 46.
Yeah, all very close.
44.
You think about the amount of points that Gasly's thrown away,
Mm-hmm.
not just through being like what he did there, but through being well off Verstappen.
Yeah.
You know, and in the early part of the season, he wasn't scoring points at all, was he?
So yeah,
Or if he was like 10th.
44,
He was being beaten by
44
Kvyat.
is
Yeah.
44 is the gap between Ferrari and Red Bull. The gap between Leclerc, who's 5th, and Gasly, who's 6th, is 65.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only 7 between Sainz and Gasly.
Yeah.
And that would be a lot less if Gasly hadn't got those fastest lap points that he did
Yeah.
earlier on. So, yeah, I think they're going to call an early time. Right, Ferrari. Binary again.
Mm-hmm.
The second most binary team. Sorry, the 1/0th most binary team.
Awful result for Leclerc.
Blamed the drag strip runoff area. Well, don't run wide.
Yeah,
And
he
he
kept on doing the same
Yeah.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't do anything to stop himself.
He almost
doing
lost it
that.
twice as well. Remember when Martin
Yeah.
Brundle said he looked like an octopus wrestling the car?
Well, it started off with fantastic save there,
Yeah.
and then oops, and then
Oh, he's done it
oops,
again.
and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
he should have reined it in and finished.
What
Yeah.
I didn't like was when he was in his pit interview, he said, "I'm not trying to make excuses, but here's an excuse."
But once I went off the track,
Yeah.
it was really slippy.
You
Yeah.
continually
Don't go off
ran.
the
Don't
track.
go off the track.
You continually ran in a bit of the track you weren't meant to be on, and
Yeah.
eventually you got caught out.
You wouldn't get away with it in Monaco or Baku.
Yeah.
Very
No,
true. You'd be in the harbour.
Well,
And you take more care in the rain because otherwise you end up in the wall.
it seems to be a little bit less prominent now than it used to be years ago. But there was a time in Formula One where you daren't touch the curbs in the rain.
Mm.
Yeah.
Vitali Petrov.
Yeah, I was testing the curb.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Julian Palmer on the
Oh,
the
and
zebra
there's
crossing in Monaco.
Didn't Damon have a big one go on a curb? I'm sure he had a big
I
one in
think
the
so,
West.
yeah.
Was it Silverstone? Did he crash out of Silverstone? I'm sure it was something really prominent when he did it, but anyway, I can't remember. But yeah, it's the again, and I still say it, and I know it annoys people when I say it, so I like saying it. This is why you have to go with Vettel. Vettel isn't on form.
Vettel did the same thing last year.
No, I know, but I mean, just,
different corner though.
but on
They
a
have changed the curb as well.
on
at
a
that
race
corner.
to race basis, I think there's more chance of an accident like this happening for Leclerc than there is for Vettel.
Yeah,
Depends what mood Vettel's in at the start of the weekend.
If it's not, no, but the thing is, I'm talking about just complete driver problems. So you stick Vettel at the front of a race, for instance. That's how he wins races. That's where he needs to get back to, is qualifying well and controlling races, because he does it really well. It's his problems of being in close quarters racing with people, hasn't it? Where
Yeah.
Leclerc does seem to have these little moments now and again.
It's inexperience.
Oh yeah, no, it is
It's-
inexperience.
It's like Verstappen in his first and second year.
I'm not saying that he's not gonna. I still don't think there's a world championship in him. I think there might be a really, really good Formula One driver in him, but I don't know if that makes a world champion. You know, David Coulthard was a really, really good Formula One driver, but that's the problem Ferrari have got at the minute. They've got two drivers, and they don't have a reliable lead driver they can lean on and trust.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, Vettel. Somebody tweeted it as last week.
Mhm.
Why, what have you got against Vettel? Or words to
Nothing.
that effect. It's like nothing. It's just we are talking about him making mistakes because he's making mistakes.
I think last week
We don't. I think you replied, Dan. We don't even want to talk about this, but it's what happens.
But
Yeah.
I think last week I turned around and said that he's a 4-time world champion. It's not like he's forgotten how to drive all of a sudden.
And this weekend, prime example.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant weekend for him.
But he didn't do anything special.
In that race, though, just keeping it on the track
Yeah.
was apparently quite
There's-
special.
There's only about 4 people didn't spin.
The problem I've got for Vettel in this race was he was nowhere
Going from 20th to 2nd is doing something special.
in the
my
best
book.
in the best car this weekend. That car was the class of the field this weekend.
Still going from 20th to 2nd.
I think considering the restarts and the safety cars and the pit stops and the craziness, yeah, but by not having an accident, he should have been on the podium in that car. Hamilton won the race from 13th last year because he had a really good car underneath him.
Leclerc
And
started
Vettel
way
had
up the field
yeah,
from him.
Vettel had a
and should have
barrier
been
on
on
him.
the podium.
What?
Leclerc started way up the field from
Yeah.
Vettel. Should have been on the podium.
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton and Bottas both had really good cars.
Yeah.
Class of the field.
Oh no.
Should have been on the
But
podium.
no, but what I'm saying is by not
that's
making
not mentioning the Red Bulls.
by not making a mistake, he just did what the car wanted to do. So that's why I'm not saying it was a bad race. It just wasn't as exceptional as it appears to be. But I do think there's positives. Well, and hopefully he takes all the positives that's gone. He was in a good mood for once at the end of the race.
It's the first time we've seen Happy Seb in a long time.
Yeah, and I see. Even though I don't think it was like this crazy standout race for him.
I think it would have been so easy in the circumstances for him to push too hard.
Yeah, but don't forget, before he got on the slicks, he was nowhere. He was overtaken by Kimi Räikkönen, and Kimi Räikkönen pulled away from him.
That was a bit weird. It looked like his car was having problems at that point
I-
people were going faster than him on the straight.
But he said he couldn't get any heat into the tyres.
There was a bit where he was bitching about the turbo again, wasn't he?
Yeah. It was the turbo that took him out of qualifying.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he couldn't get any heat into the tyres. But that's been Ferrari's problem all season. And I think it's amplified by the fact that it's colder conditions on the intermediate and the wet tyres when the track surface is colder and it's harder to get temperature in.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he went onto the slicks, him and the car clicked.
Yeah.
And that's when he started carving his way through the field properly.
But the car's been lightning all weekend. Joe, that's. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if the race would have started when it was supposed to start, and we hadn't lost those 3 laps, there's a good chance he'd have won the race. With those extra 3 laps, the pace he had, I think he could have overturned 7 seconds on Verstappen. So yeah, all I'm saying about it is, it's not. I don't think it's a turning point, but the positivity he can garner from this finishing position might be a turning point.
It is just 1 week. It could be a turning point.
Yeah. I hope it is.
Yeah.
Psychologically, yes. Form-wise for this season, we'll find out next weekend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he turns it around more, because it would be horrible to have a 4 times world champion leave the sport with people just saying, oh, yeah, well, he had the car, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think Vettel's a better driver than that. I think he's he's one of the Formula One drivers that we should remember is one of the best in the sport, not someone that just fizzles out and leaves the sport.
Somebody say something. I got a gobful of vape.
But of course, we hate Vettel.
So that just leaves the binariest of the binary, Red Bull. We've already talked about Gasly at length, and I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything more you can say apart from he was in Germany this weekend.
Yeah.
Verstappen
Had a bad start.
Yeah.
start was both of them had a
Yeah.
nightmare start.
Awful.
I mean, what was it by the first corner? Gasly was down to 10th and Verstappen was 6th.
Yeah.
Round
Sounds about
round
right,
there.
yeah.
No traction. I mean, they were on what you would normally say was the dirty side of the track. And there was just no grip. And you saw on the onboards, they just crawled off the line.
Yeah. Even compared to other people on the same side as the track as them as well.
They
Yeah.
must have been on like the worst bits of the
Yeah.
grid.
They must have had like some kind of special clutch thing that helped them get off the line. But after that, flawless race by him and Red Bull.
Yeah, well,
I don't know, because he spun.
he did
He
spin.
was on the wrong tyre at one point. It was only really the second half of the race that it really all seemed to fit into place for him.
Okay, slightly flawed race, but flawlesser than anyone else.
Flawless dry section.
Yes.
1.88 second pit stop,
That
Oh,
was
the pit stops
incredible.
were amazing.
slightly quicker than the Mercedes one.
Mhm.
By about 50 seconds.
By a lap.
If anyone hasn't seen it, check out our Twitter at 3 Legs 4 Wheels for the retweet earlier with the Mercedes pit stop to a shitty flute version of the Formula One thing.
Have we not argued about this already and decided it was a recorder?
It's a recorder, but the
official orchestra name for that is Shitty Flute.
because the 20th Century Fox one that everyone knows is called Shitty Flute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he won Driver of the Day, and I can't see any arguments with that.
There's a lot of people you could make an argument for, really, aren't there? I mean, Kvyat, Stroll, Sainz, maybe. Vettel. Coming from the back.
Albon.
Albon.
Yeah.
Albon was my driver of the day
Mm.
because it's not just like where you end up; it's what you've done.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Particularly-
not a prize for coming first.
Yeah,
And having
Or-
never driven an F1 car in the wet before.
yeah. I thought he was brilliant. I think he won himself a fucking Red Bull drive that weekend. I think he can lose it this weekend.
I mean, one thing that we did see from all the rookies was quality wet driving, because none of them
Yeah,
had
that's true.
driven an
Mm.
F1 car in the rain before, because we haven't had rain this season.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the only one that crashed was Norris, and that was... Well,
He
it wasn't a
didn't
crash,
crash.
was
Well,
it?
he
He
didn't
pulled off
crash, he
because he had a...
retired.
Yeah.
Heroes and villains. Hero, I'm gonna go Vettel on this one.
Rain.
yeah.
The
Rain.
Villain.
Mercedes.
No, they weren't villains. They just had a really, really bad
They
weekend.
provided an entertainment.
Yeah. A really
Yeah,
bad
but it
Sunday.
was just a bad weekend all round.
Somebody suggested Turn 16 as a villain, but
Oh, not weekend.
No, that was the drivers.
Alfa Romeo clutch person.
Drag
Yeah.
strips.
So, are we ready for the hell that was our predictions this week?
I mean, it's very similar throughout.
It's incredibly similar throughout. We'll start with the people that are here.
Yeah.
Chris went for a Bottas win, Hamilton second, Verstappen third. 1 point. Guest predictor, which was Susie Kennedy. I'm just scrolling through page 19 of
The
her
dossier.
her prediction to get to it. Hamilton win, Leclerc second, Verstappen third.
I believe you got to wait
1
5
point.
years and go in for freedom of information after, and then you can take all the redacted bits out.
Although she did put the disclaimer at the end, which part of it was right, saying it'll rain, Raikkonen will win, and we'll all be sitting with ice creams just like, what the fuck just happened? Take away the Raikkonen win, she got
Yeah.
that's it right.
It rained, but Raikkonen was disqualified. Like,
No, he technically, I think, was classified 12th.
oh, was it?
Yeah,
He
no,
had a
they
drive-through
still
penalty.
they still finished. Just very much as
Well,
also
I
ran.
suppose there's a 1 in the number.
Right. Who shall we do next? Sean, you went for a Hamilton win, Bottas second, Verstappen third with the bonus of a new contract for
Yeah,
Bottas.
we'll gloss over that
That didn't
aspect,
happen,
but-
but 1 point.
1 point.
Dan, Vettel win, Hamilton second, Leclerc third, 1 point.
This is looking very similar.
Lee, Hamilton win, Verstappen second, Bottas third, 1 point.
How have we got 1 point in the most ways possible? That we could
Every
have done
single
it?
one of us had Vettel or Verstappen on the podium, but none of us got them in the right position.
And mine was Hamilton win, Leclerc second, Verstappen third, 1 point. Everybody scored 1.
Well, that was worth the effort.
We have Oprah'd it. You get a point and you get a point.
What a waste of time! It's done absolutely
Particularly if you wrote a
nothing.
fucking essay about it and not just picked the first 3 names that came into your head.
But come on, who was going to guess at Kvyat?
Literally no one.
Like, the only person that got a point for Kvyat was his mum.
On the on the Predictions League on the website, you know how it's normally out of 11?
What's normally a good score? It's normally, what, like 8, 9?
8, 9, 10. We've had a couple of 11s before. This week we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people all tied for the victory with 4 points. And there's bonus points available there for fastest lap and pole position.
Everybody was shite.
Only 3 people were actually really shite who all scored 0.
I was just going to say 4 people that were in here. Pretty shite.
I'm guessing nobody did have Kvyat.
Nobody had Kvyat.
Shocker.
Shame there was just one loyal fan.
One Russian.
Oh, hang on, it's a Russian. Wait a minute, that's just changed. Somebody's now had Kvyat on there. A Mr. C Analytica. Right. Newsy stuff. There's not a great deal. Alain Prost is now a director of Renault F1 team, or Renault Sport.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he's not really involved with the Formula E side of things because Nissan have been running Infinity.
Is this
In
going to end up
Formula E.
coming back to me saying when do we start blaming Cyril Abiteboul?
When he gets replaced by
Alan
Prost.
Prost.
Now you mention it, yeah, I didn't put 2 and 2 together when you said that earlier, but yes. So is Prost going to have more involvement in there?
Well, when you think he was running a Formula E team, so he's left Formula E to become a director of Renault, and to essentially have like a demotion because he's not running a team.
Has he left Formula E?
Yes, because Renault have pulled out of the Infinity, and the Nissan side of it's taken it over. So he's not. He's been there at a couple of races, but not as prominently as he was up until the start of last
got
season.
History as a team owner.
It's not a good one.
It's not a good one, but it's.
Well, to be honest, it was a cigarette advertising ban that killed him because as soon as he wasn't allowed to put Goldwire on the car, he was screwed.
Yeah, and it was always an underfunded team as well. Won a race with Panis?
No, I think it was still Ligier then.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
A shame. But yeah, like he's got such a history in sport. I think just his name attached to Renault is worth it.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy in front of cameras as well. Not saying Mr. Abiteboul isn't, but he's probably a better choice. See, he can't get too close to the microphone, you see. That's the trick.
You can't argue with that.
No,
Fritz
it's a
Prost
fair
knocked the
point.
gain up.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that one pans out. Then
I'd like to see Prost running Renault. I think it'd be a interesting thing to for Formula One. We've lost Lauda.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have another F1 legend in there.
We've still got Berger.
It'd be nice to have an ex-F1 legend in there.
but isn't he more concentrating on turning up drunk at DTM and?
He's something quite senior in DTM and Porsche, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is he pulling from his long history of endurance drinking?
Somebody said the 24 hours of bar. Yeah, GT, gin and tonic racing. Right, killed that one.
With a Chateau Rouge.
Oh, there's going to be more. Tweet the best Gerhard Burger drinking puns at us. At 3 legs, 4 wheels. What have I written down here? F1 babies. Yeah, congratulations to Danny Kvyat and Kelly Piquet for the birth of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing a jump cut on that one.
No.
Yeah. I
And,
don't think they have announced a name yet. I've not seen
and
it.
to Jensen Button and I can never remember her name.
Brittany.
Brittany. On the birth of Hendrix Jonathan.
I think you find it's that woman.
Let it go. Let it go. Yeah, Hendrix Jonathan. Is he going to be like Crosstown Traffic?
Oh, ow.
Hendrix Button is a solid name, though. There's not going to be many of them floating about.
Well
is there?
bulldozed through, Sean.
No, there's quite a lot, usually in front of pub guitarists on the floor on a pedal board. It's the one that lets you feed back. Oh dear. Shall we look forward to Hungary instead this weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be telling. It's the chassis race of the year.
Quite often an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had a few interesting Hungary results before. Because who can forget Damon Hill not winning? Sorry, Lee. That one had to come up.
Sports Cry 1. 2, actually.
Hungary is also a circuit where drivers seem to do well at getting the first wins.
Charles Leclerc, nailed on.
Pierre Gasly.
Interesting.
That
Would save his Red Bull drive.
It would throw the cat
Oh.
right amongst the pigeons, wouldn't it?
Although Kvyat got his first Red Bull podium about a week before he was demoted.
Yeah.
No, he got it at Hungary the year before.
Oh, did he?
He did.
Yeah. Yeah, this could be this could be the race that defines next season, or who's driving for who at this rate. It's a tough one to call because out and out engine power doesn't really count for as much. It's a pretty slow one, so it's all down to the aero. It's all down to the quality of the chassis. You've got to look at Red Bull for.
Well, one of them.
Or what? Yeah, you've got to look at a Red Bull. Well, I mean, you can look at the other one when it's parked up against the barrier.
Yeah, I think all three teams are going to be really strong this weekend.
Yeah.
I think we could be in for a bit of a thriller, actually, especially like in. Sorry, Dan.
It's all right.
I think we could be in for a bit of a thriller compared to what Hungary can be sometimes.
Fingers crossed, because normally when we say we're in for a thrilling race,
It's
usually
not.
the
snooze
curse.
fest.
We get France.
I wonder what the weather forecast is.
No, don't know if we're too far out, possibly.
It's
Have a little
it's
look.
usually a dry race. I
is.
can't
I-
remember.
But
Yeah.
we've been getting some crazy weather in Europe.
That is true. We've been going from you can't get on a train because of the heat wave and the tracks are melting to
Yeah.
2 days later you can't get on a train because the tracks are flooded.
Yeah.
So currently, it looks like it's going to be heavy rain and lightning on Friday, and then sunny for the rest of the weekend.
Of course it is.
So wipe out practice, and
Yes.
then yeah.
So we could be seeing anything and everything.
Yeah.
To be fair, a wiped out practice can make for an interesting race
Can
as
do,
well.
yes.
Yeah.
Particularly when you've got lots of upgrades and things like that.
So Lance Stroll getting on the podium this time.
I still like the idea of that, of getting rid of Friday practices.
I reckon one session on a Friday and that's it.
Yeah, maybe. Did you see what Brundle was doing in that 24 Hours of Spa? Was it 24 Hours of Spa or was it 24 Hours somewhere else?
So it was 24 hours of Spa at the weekend.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, he was doing Nürburgring, wasn't he? It was a Nürburgring, Nordschleife.
Yeah.
Sorry. And their qualifying and testing was wrapped up in 2 laps. That happened at the same time.
Because, the 24 hours of Spa this weekend was more like the sort of 17 and a half hours of
Yeah,
Spa because it
it's one of
rained
these
that
Yeah,
six
it
much.
was more
hours
like
of
a
sitting
powerboat
about.
race.
Yeah.
I watched some of it.
Yeah, just like the WEC 6 hours of Spa that was the 4 hours of Spa and a fucking blizzard.
Yeah.
And we have been getting some bloody weird weather in Europe this year. Should we do some predictions?
Anyone would think the climate was changing.
Yeah, even 8 hours of Suzuka on the bikes this week. They had the weather and oil.
Yeah, and that was the 7 hours 58 and a half minutes. And nobody actually knew who'd won until 4 hours later. But congratulations to Jonathan Ray, local resident.
Not anymore, no.
Oh, has he moved?
Moved back to Northern Ireland now. Yeah.
Former local resident Jonathan Ray for eventually winning the 8 hours of Suzuka the day after the race started. Right, predictions. I've got Chris's here. So we'll do those first. And he's going a Verstappen win, Vettel second, Hamilton third. And surprise announcement of the weekend, Ricciardo confirmed to Mercedes.
Ooh.
He's going bold.
My bonus prediction went well last week, so Ricardo in a fence.
And we have a guest predictor as well. Seeing as we had Max Verstappen winning a race, gone for one of our Dutch listeners, Marcel Strijk. And he is going for not what you'd think. Hamilton win, Verstappen second, Bottas third.
Treachery.
So, who's going up next?
I'll go. I think it's going to be a Verstappen win, Vettel second, Bottas third, Hamilton still sick.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm with Lee on that. I reckon we've got Leclerc maiden win, Verstappen second, Bottas third.
I reckon Verstappen win, Leclerc second, Hamilton third.
You have to say that again because I didn't get time.
Sorry, my apologies. Verstappen,
Verstappen.
hoping I remember what I said, Leclerc, and Hamilton.
And I am going to go for... I'm going with the Verstappen win because Adrian Newey. Vettel second and Leclerc third.
With your prediction of Hamilton still being sick, are you predicting Hamilton being shit or are you predicting Ocon?
I'm predicting Hamilton being off the pace.
Okay.
He said he was going to go home and sleep it off.
Depends what it is, doesn't it, though? If it's like we say, if it's a stomachy thing, that should pass through quite quickly. If it is actually some kind of virus,
I think he's
that might
dumped all
linger.
his sponsor commitments, hasn't he, to just rest up.
Yeah.
See, the reason I don't think it's a stomach thing is because of how he sounded. Rarely when people have got stomach problems do they sound different.
yeah.
Could be something like glandular fever. That.
Like, yeah. Or like proper flu. Big dose of flu.
I mean, proper flu. You're flat out for 2 weeks.
And of course, sitting in a wet car for 2 hours helps with that.
Wouldn't have been good.
Wouldn't fancy that. It's going to be an interesting one. You can join in with the predictions on the website if you go to threelegs4wheels.com, go to the games section and go for Grand Prix Prediction League 2019. Log in with Facebook, Twitter or your Google account and predict the top three, and you also get to predict pole and fastest lap.
Woo!
Out of 11 points, we will see how people have done this time next week. All right, shall we shunt it?
Let's.
Yay. And who's this week's shunt from?
Jono Millsy.
Oh, yes. So pretty regular Formula E entrant of days gone by.
I think he's done an. I think he's done one. No, he hasn't. He gave me his silly season predictions, which you can do again because it's now a game.
I'll get that set up next week.
Yeah. Are you ready?
No,
Yeah.
but yes.
Well, go on then.
I was born
Yay.
at the start of a war.
Well,
So,
that narrows
How are
it
we
down.
on the wars?
1914, 1939.
There's all sorts of fucking wars.
Sounds like
though,
an
aren't there? There's like-
AC/DC line, doesn't it?
I was born at the start of a war. I can actually hear Brian Johnson singing that. I'd have a go, but I'd rip my throat to pieces singing Whole Lot of Rosie this weekend.
I won most of my races in the first few laps.
Okay.
Right.
My mother did not want me to become a racing driver.
That's true of many
Most
racing drivers.
I'd like a guess, please.
Oof.
God.
I mean, this is
The
completely unplaceable in terms of
I mean,
era.
If we knew which war.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
War is constant. It's always happening somewhere.
I mean, that clue, huh? What is it good for?
Creating racing drivers.
I mean, what are some other wars? When was like Vietnam War and
Monday Night
Korea
Wars.
War?
Maybe he knows I like wrestling.
Korean War was the 50s. Vietnam started in the 60s.
Falklands at 80s.
82. Gulf.
Iraq.
Gulf.
Yeah, there's always a
Yeah.
war. Every decade's got a good war.
Video format wars.
It's Cyril the Betamax.
Hey! That's quite good, that.
But won most of my races in the first few laps.
This suggests someone who's a good qualifier, then just fucks off into the distance and.
Michael Schumacher was born in 1969. Could that have been when the Vietnam War started?
Could have been, might as well be.
I think it started earlier than that, didn't it?
Bon Jovi getting his first real six string was not actually a war.
That was Brian Adams.
No,
No, was it?
Yeah.
I always get them mixed up.
There's
They're
a
so
DHL
fucking
advert about it. And everything.
transferable, aren't they?
No,
So-
Bon Jovi's got a loaded six string on his back
What?
and rides a steel horse.
Are these lyrics?
Yes.
I'm so happy I didn't know.
Are we just going to throw in Schumacher in the
Let's just-
absence of
throw in
anything?
Yeah, we'll just
else?
go Michael Schumacher with that first one.
My 1969 car
Oh.
was restored recently by Hall and Hall in the old BRM factory.
Right, so not Schumacher.
No.
Someone probably a bit older.
So someone who drove the car in the year that Schumacher was born. So I think we're looking at somebody who was born in 1939.
Probably.
That sounds most logical. What about Jackie Stewart? It's his age. He's going to be.
He's just turned 80. Oh.
So yeah, that
yeah,
would work.
so, yeah,
then.
that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was 80 at Goodwood.
Would he have potentially been driving car that's just been restored?
Would have thought so. That's yeah.
I raced for BRM.
Which would make sense for restoring a car in their factory, really,
That-
wouldn't
that
it?
is true.
It's probably the best place to do it.
I'll clarify, maybe he meant Brum. But I think it's BRM.
Unless the factory's in Birmingham, then it's just Meta. Yeah, next clue.
I often talk about what I did before motorsport. Sorry, guys. I'd like a guess after that as well.
I mean, that takes Jackie Stewart out of it a little bit because he doesn't really talk so much as he just waves his wrist about.
Notice that George Russell was pulling a Jackie Stewart on the grid on Sunday. He had one sleeve of his race suit rolled up and
Did
a
he?
watch on prominent display in front of the camera.
Formula One driver watches are almost as ridiculous as Formula One driver's sunglasses.
Yes.
Although you can buy the same sunglasses that Lando wears for about 130 quid.
They're the
If-
Kamau ones.
No,
No.
the
Since Alonso's disappeared, they're Calvin Klein all of a sudden.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
but yeah, they're about 130 quid. A Formula One driver watch, you're going into the five figures.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Are we delaying here while we actually think of something
We are, but
sensible?
I can't think of anything better than Jackie
I
Stewart.
can't think of anything better than Jackie Stewart, but the more clues we've had, the less I'm convinced.
Should we just go with that one as a?
Yeah, let's just go
Yeah.
with that.
We'll say Jackie Stewart.
I apologise. I have not drove 100 races.
I mean, that makes sense for
I-
someone back in the day, doesn't it?
I
'Cause
wonder if we're not looking at a driver here. If you think about the wording of some of these questions, are we looking at something other than a person?
the restoring of someone's car and winning their races in the
yeah.
opening couple of laps.
I drove for BRM. Says driver.
Yeah, and what was this? I have not drove 100 laps. Was that this?
100 races.
100 races, sorry, yeah. Yeah, I'm not...
Did Jackie Stewart retire at his 100th race when Francois Sever was killed and he pulled out immediately in the
What-
US Grand Prix?
What was Jackie before he was a racing driver?
Scottish.
I don't know.
Can't argue with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, a brainwave.
Max Mosley was a lawyer before he was a racing driver.
So happy you said lawyer.
Anything else, he could have got sued. Yeah, he could be onto something,
Did
eh?
not see that coming.
He
Oh,
was,
no.
I read his autobiography recently, and he talked about going to visit his parents who were in jail during the war while he was growing up. So I can't remember exactly when he was born. Did he race for BRM?
I think everybody British with a racing licence raced for BRM at one point during the 60s.
Do you want another clue?
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
I have commemorated those who that unfortunately died in motorsport.
We're back onto the Jackie Stewart
Yeah,
thing here.
Yeah.
this is- yeah.
It's just that I often talk about what I did before being a racing driver.
I can't think what
Ja-
it would be for. Yeah.
I don't ever remember hearing Jackie Stewart saying what he did before he was a
No.
racing driver.
Because he only ever talks about racing.
How he's still
Racing,
driving.
Or
Yeah.
still driving,
So he
or
can't drink
various
Heineken.
sponsorships, or his dementia awareness stuff. That's
Yeah.
pretty much his repertoire.
More?
Yeah.
Oh,
My son had an F1 team.
Paul
yes.
Stewart Racing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I flew across the Atlantic 86 times in one season.
So this is someone who was fannying about in IndyCar.
Or Can-Am. Sports cars as it was then.
Or making money as an airline pilot.
Like Nicky Lauda.
Yeah.
But he wasn't making money as an airline pilot. That's why he went back to F1 with McLaren to fund the airline. Did we get Spaffer?
Yes, but you can't have it.
Oh. It's probably going to be I am Scottish and have a very prominent watch.
Should we go with Jackie Stewart?
I
Though I don't think it's that.
think, yeah, I can't think
Can
of
I
anything
throw
better.
in a spanner of potentially Graham Hill as someone who would have been
But
involved on the Atlantics?
Damon didn't have a Formula One team.
That is true. Yeah, no, ignore that. That doesn't hugely work for anything other than that clue.
Mm.
And possibly being about the right kind of age.
Let's go with Jackie Stewart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am Sir Jackie Stewart.
Yes.
Yes.
You couldn't have the Spaffer because it said I am British, not Scottish.
He's very
Hey.
Scottish. He's a walking shortbread tin.
Why you couldn't have the Spaffer?
Right, so we're all immediately about to look up
So-
what Jackie Stewart did
Did before
before
he
he
was
was
a
a racing
racer.
driver.
He talked about it on the build up to the race this week. I've completely forgot what it was.
So it was something impactful then.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Early life.
Well, I think
he
it was
he
some
went to
sort of
primary
sport.
school. He was a prize-winning clay pigeon shooter.
I thought there was
Was
something
he?
else.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, because he just said shooting. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually in the Scottish national shooting team
Oh,
Yeah.
very good.
in the
Did
days
not know that. So
I did
he
not
doesn't
know.
talk about it that often.
I think
Not
he
talked
came
about it enough in
second
my
in like the World
presence.
Championships or something like that. He didn't win the World Championship, but he came
But he
really
was
high
in
up in
there.
it.
He was. Let's have a look. He was British champion. Twice won the European Championships and nearly made it into the British team for the 1960 Olympics.
Mm.
That's pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
fair
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. Wow. Right. So, how do you send in a total shunt?
You can tweet one to me at a total shunt, or you can send one to me as your man did, as Jojo.
Jono Millsy.
As Jono did, and he sent me a PM on Instagram. So either Instagram or Twitter. Send me
Twitter
a PM.
direct message. Don't forget. So the rest of us don't see it.
PM. We all know. We know it. We know where we are.
And if you want to get hold of the rest of us, we are at 3 Legs 4 Wheels, and individually we are.
At Sean Cowper.
justgiving.com/donate/100miledan. 100 is a word.
Don't,
You can write a good luck message on there.
don't write 100 is a word at the end of that. I'm Pablo100 and Chris is at Flood21.
You can write a good luck message like £50.
Yeah.
Right, that just leaves Formula Lee. I've been looking forward to this all night.
Yep. And it's time to go, guys.
No,
Bye.
it isn't. I'm not. No, we are doing this. I'm not leaving. I'm not doing a jump cut
The
in the morning.
laptop's crashed.
It's all right. Mine's still working. Right, this was a lap of Germany in the dry in a Ferrari, and you needed to get a time of 1 minute 12.371 to make it into the top 20. And the ones that did, in 20th place was Jimmy Hammerling, 19th Paul Robert Burley, 18th this week's guest predictor Marcel Strike, 17th we have Brooks de Geer, 16th we have me. I scored points for the first time this season. 15th was James Nagle, 14th Adam Smith, 13th was Joe Marsh, 12th was Santerio Nasty, 11th was Chris Rowden. Top 10. 10th was Ollie Vestley. 9th, Julian McMahon Hyde. 8th was Pete Bull. 7th, Kyle Armstrong. 6th, Vaicha Camping. 5th, Cathal Toomey. And 4th was Matthew Morrison. Top 3, with a time of 1:11.403. 1:11.366 in third place, Alessandro Popolani. Second place, 1:10.978. Is Nathan Mazzolo, and winning yet again 1:10.816 is Chris Olby. So well done to everyone that scored points this week, including me. I'm just
Well done, Paul.
Well done, Chris, and all the slower people.
I'm just hitting that one home, and it's going to be a 1 week challenge this week. This is why I'm not doing it as a jump cut, so it goes straight out.
Yeah, hungry.
And it's going to be hungry, and I reckon we're going to have it in the wet. And I think to celebrate what Danny Kvyat did, we're going to do it in a Toro Rosso.
Nice.
So that's Toro Rosso in the wet in Hungary. 1 week, as I say. So you have got until 7 o'clock UK time next Monday, the date of which temporarily escapes me, which I think is the 5th.
Yes.
That would sound about
I'm now
right.
looking at the calendar on my laptop. So yeah, 7 o'clock UK time, 2 o'clock Eastern, Monday the 5th. Get those in. You can send it through on, if you're on PlayStation, send me a friend request if you already haven't to Pabstar. I'll be able to pick your times up from the leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on Xbox, send Lee a friend request too.
Leadrum 100.
And if you don't want to do it either of those ways, or you're on PC, you can send a screenshot to 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. You can send them in a Twitter direct message or PM us on Facebook, facebook.com/3legs4wheels. Right, that has been a long show tonight.
It's been all right. It's not the longest show we've ever done. We're just over the 2 hour mark.
It just felt longer at the time.
Yeah.
It's a bit all the stop-start because of the safety cars. We'll be back next week. Hungary review, and I think the silly season's going to be...
Silly season
Yeah.
preview.
Silly season preview.
Yeah.
God knows. We might be looking at different lineups by this time next week. You never know.
Well, yeah, because Dan's not here.
Oh. And Sean wins the podcast.
Yay.
Dan, good luck with your bike ride from all of us.
Thank you very much.
And
I will need it.
we'll keep tabs on you on Sunday. And thanks a lot for listening.
Yep.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.